Let's try to get situated here and get started. Okay, let's rise for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to everyone this morning to our monthly meeting. First item of business today will be approval of the minutes of our May meeting. Move for approval.
Second.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed. Okay, we have the Morrison Reeves Library here today to talk about their plans moving forward, major work on the library. Met with Dina and had a brief conversation about what they're going to be doing. And so I do want to say before we start that they're not asking today for any kind of action on our behalf. This is an informational meeting, and they'll probably be coming back in August or at some point later this year, requesting some approval from us for what they're going to talk about today. So welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate your time this morning. My name is Dina Little. I'm the director of Morrison Reeves Library. Today I'm joined with Purdy, somewhere around here, the architect with LWC, and then Jason Pensel from Baker right over there. They'll both speak as well as I continue through the presentation. I've provided everybody with kind of a little packet there. Some of it is just for reading for you later, but today I have printout of the slides that we're going to go over, which look like this. And then there's also a packet that Baker Tilly created, and Jason will review those with you. And then you also see there's a map. So the fancy one is for you for later reading, and then the quarterly guide is just to share with you about all the awesome things that the library doing this summer. So before I get started on the slide, I just want to share the purpose of the presentation, as Max was saying, is to introduce the project and what is happening with the library building, our plans to address the issues, and then what our financial outlook is in regard to the project itself. So why is the library here at the council meeting? In Indiana, public libraries have limitations on their own capital projects and what they can fund, what they can borrow, and even the ability to spend their own revenues. So our board is an appointed board. We do have board members in the audience as well. So whenever we want to take on a larger project, it's our responsibility to come to an elected body. And for us, the county council is our elected fiscal body. So we want to make sure that you guys have enough time to ask questions. We can bring you more information about the project. So introducing it now in June and then coming back in August, hopefully you'll provide enough time for any more information that we need to share with you as that goes on. We're about 25% into the design phase, so it's very early days still for us. But in terms of funding the project, it takes a significant amount of time. So that's why we're coming to you now. All right. So do I just push the arrow buttons on the?
The arrow down for presentation bit, yes. It's leave it up and down.
All right. Thank you. All right, so this started in 2023. So under Indiana law, public libraries have to operate under a strategic plan. Our last plan expired in 2022. So in 2023, we sought out community feedback about, hey, what's next for the library? What does the community want? And we engaged with over 1,000 people through surveys, through community stakeholder sessions, through focus groups. We also did internal elements as well, engage with our employees to discover, what is it that is next for the library. On the next slide. So this next slide outlines some of the most important elements that the community expressed that they want to see the library develop or expand more on, such things as computer and technology, their youth areas. So youth areas focused on early literacy, and then the teen space. So like operational right now, we have some challenges in regards to how we serve our youth and teens. a more robust local and genealogy center. Our study rooms are being used about 33% more each year, so we're kind of overflowing our study rooms, so if folks want more study rooms. Meeting spaces with technology. We do have one room right now that has technology and then a large room that has some, but the smaller rooms as well. People are asking for that. People are requesting more interactive spaces and then a small business space. A lot of folks come and use our library for things like faxing and printing and preparing things for their small business or their local businesses as well. So we kind of learned from this, like, okay, we have this great big space. We just need to change things around a little bit. However, at the same time that we were preparing the strategic plan, we noticed an increase in volume of issues with the building. We were having plumbing issues and mechanical failures. We were having roof leaking and the masonry was, we're noticing some issues with the masonry. So we sought out Kevin McCurdy to perform a facility assessment on the building so that we could have a better idea of what is the current health of the building. I mean, it's fine to want to make some changes internally and even its aesthetic improvements, but what's actually happening with the structure of the building? And so we engaged with him in 2024. And that process took a number of months. And if you want to come and share kind of the outcome of that, and then I will get us through the slides.
So as you can see up on the screen is really just the age of the building. It's really the most fun part of our job is really jumping into the planning and starting a new project, when we really get kind of the sky's wide open, you can start doing a project. But when you're looking at something of the scale that we're talking about potentially with the library project, it's always the most responsible approach to do just what Dina said, go in and understand what have we got. Because the last thing we want to do is start doing, I'll say, the fun work, of expanding services, doing that kind of stuff, but miss items that need to be done on a building. What that can do is get a organization into trouble where they spend all of their dollars on, things that again help patron staff, but then miss if there's a major mechanical piece of equipment that needs to get serviced, fixed, replaced. And if that doesn't happen and they expend their dollars on new capital projects, they can get in trouble when it comes to the operations side. So that's where we jumped in and said, okay, let's really look top to bottom. So this was literally, we're up on the roof crawling around, we're in chase spaces, looking above ceilings. We engaged TP Engineering, so they looked at the plumbing, mechanical, electrical systems. So really everything from top to bottom. And I think you have a copy of that report or some
of it.
components of that report. Ultimately, we're looking for what's the immediate things that need to be done. So those are like life safety things, ADA things, are there things that aren't compliant with current code? Again, building may have been at the time it was built, but code changes over time. So just looking at that, because if we're going to do a major renovation, if there is something that's not compliant with current code, we're going to have to update that too. And then we look at like the 3 to 5 year, these are things that if they don't start to fix them are going to need some additional repairs to avoid additional higher costs, further deterioration, things like that. And then there's the 5+. Well, these would be nice to have. And sometimes we find that while we think they may be a 5+, it may be this is so cumbersome for patrons or staff that becomes more of a 3-year, or even this needs to be done soon to really help the library operate. We started looking at this, and again, Dina brought up what you're seeing on the screen are some images of the masonry. That was probably the big trigger point. And what you're looking at is actually imagery right there over that main bridge ramp where you come in. Again, we could see problems from the ground, but sometimes it's really hard to understand what does that actually mean. So we actually went in and did a little bit of removal of some brick, and that's what you're seeing. You got a lift up there to understand what was occurring. What you're seeing where the arrow is pointing is a pretty significant gap between the brick and frankly the steel that should be holding that up. And you can even see that in the image there to your right. That's on the north side of the building. So not necessarily where the patrons come in. There's a lot of separation of that. Really what's happened is the building was built in the 70s, which was a bit of a transitional period, going from kind of that historic thick masonry wall to really a backup that's not thick masonry, but more of a brick veneer. Systems were changing in that time. How do we get water out of these? How do we vent these things? I would say today it's much different where you have a lot of weeps and a lot of vents. None of those exist on this building. So unfortunately, what you're seeing are the effects of water and moisture getting trapped in those walls and not being able to get out. So the water is attacking all the steel that's behind that. And if I think you go to the next image as well, it shows a,
No,
okay.
advancing. See if I can do it.
He's coming up to,
There we go.
So again, looking down this side of the building as well, really all of those cantilevers, the cantilevers being where the bricks kind of hanging out there, unsupported, all of that is entirely reliant on steel that's kind of hanging out there. So when you see those images where the steel is starting to deteriorate, that's not a good thing in those situations. I think there's one more slide. Or not. When you look down that wall where you've got those cantilevers, it actually looks a bit like a fun house. Actually, what's happening are those cantilevers are starting to pull away from the building as well. So what started as we may just need to do some brick repairs became we have a structural problem in this building. So that's where I think we've got a lot of questions from people. Well, the building looks great. Why would you do what you're doing? That's the why we're doing what we're doing. It's not necessarily as the saying goes, a vanity project. Ideally, we would keep the outside and do the internal fixes if we could, but we're just beyond that point, unfortunately. In addition, there are some things that are not compliant with current codes. So again, as we go in, and again, I want to be clear, that doesn't mean the library is unsafe. It just means there are things we're going to have to address if we are undertaking a larger project, as we're clearly going to have to do. What that really got us to is we acknowledged there was about $9 million worth of work that needs to be done to this building. That's without really doing anything that improves the patron experience. That's just, it needs roof repair, the brick that you were looking at, the structural that you're looking at. And that's really before you add on the contingencies, the safety factors we want to. Those were kind of raw costs back in 2024. As we looked at, if we were to go out to bid, those numbers would be closer to 15 million. So when you start talking about numbers like that, you really have to question, what are we doing here if we're not improving the staff and patron experience for a building that's 50 years old? So that was really the impetus for jumping into master planning. The idea here, big picture, is, as you can see, we really wanted to go out and understand both from staff and community, what do you want the library to be? I mean, the library is 50 years old. In our experience, we work with a lot of libraries, both in Indiana and Ohio, and those are renovations, new facilities. What we're finding is they're not just libraries and repositories for books. That's still a part of what libraries do. But if you go back to the original, the mandates for the Carnegie libraries, it was really providing access to materials that were too expensive for most people to have access to. So what libraries are today is really doing that same thing, but with more than books. It's books plus. So it is really library almost as community center. And some of that is even providing access to tools, to things you may want to check out, technology, a wireless hotspot. So that was part of what we wanted to understand is specific to Richmond. What is community saying we don't have that we would like to have access to? Because again, it's too expensive for a family to own on their own. So that's what you're seeing, that there were 6 community forums. All of these were, again, very open. They were recorded, put online so that those that couldn't attend were able to view those. In addition, we put a lot of that online to get as much feedback as possible, in addition to the community engagement sessions. Okay.
That's all right. I can do it from here.
So what you're really seeing are on the left-hand side is what the library is today. On the right-hand side, you're seeing what the library is proposed to be. The other thing, and just looking at a very high level, the colors. So you're moving from, the color in the left existing is the same as on the right. So the red in this situation is actually the adult spaces. So the adult collection currently is on that upper level. That's what you're looking at there, just the upper floor. What happens is in this situation, the adult gets split. So a portion, the fiction is upstairs and nonfiction will move downstairs. You can see the children's in orange gets expanded. And again, that was a request of really the public to say, we really want more space for that. But what you're seeing are other colors coming up. The blue, the more royal blue, it's not quite royal, is staff space. The cyan color, you can see a significant expansion of teen as well. Again, and that was just a request of patrons. But the green that's coming out, that's more of a marketplace. So that's really space where there'd be the ability to get something out of a vending machine, sit and meet, with maybe a homeschool group or whatever that may be, and have connection to that outdoor space that faces Elstro. Because the other thing you're seeing in purple then would be where now that's the children's outdoor patio space, that becomes access for general public, adults, anybody that comes into the library. The other big thing is really the entrance, even though that's a nice ramp there at the front, it really doesn't meet ADA requirements. It's a little too steep and too long. We're really looking at an entrance on the north side as well as maintaining the entrance on the south side. And part of that's getting a canopy for drop off, things like that, really acknowledging a lot of people are arriving by cars. How do we make that experience better for folks that may have mobility challenges? So that's where you're seeing kind of a desk there in the middle where the green and the red come together to accommodate entry at both sides. Really a focus on how do we create some outdoor spaces, both for children's to have a dedicated outdoor space in the purple that's attached close to the orange there, with the orange being children's. And then on the opposite side towards Elstro, really leaning into what Elstro has become and providing access and connection to the other community assets that are in that area. Go to the next one. This is probably the other big thing that we see. This goes back to what we talked about, that libraries are more than books. Books take a lot of space, and that's totally fine. I mean, I think, there will always be printed copies of books. But what you're seeing here on the left is the utilization of that space. Only 40% of that lower level is available to the public, 60% is staff. And a lot of that is just over time, things change. There were books that were stored that aren't necessarily now. Really 80 to 20 is more the ratio you see, with 80% being public and 20% staff. So that's really a big part of what this lower level change is about. You're seeing a lot of meeting spaces down there, but you're also seeing the yellow would be more of a history space, history, genealogy. I think for those of us that have lived in the community long enough, I think we've all called Sue at one point and said, "Hey, Sue, do you have information about this?" So I think that library as repository of Richmond, Wayne County history is important to all of us. And so really leaning into that and making that more accessible. That's the other reason that the nonfiction moved down, to really kind of create that partner, get a little more away from the front door and kind of create a space down there for that. But you can see in the light blue, there's a lot of large meeting spaces. Just for reference, the smaller room that has the round tables in it, that's about the size of the current bar's meeting room if you were to open up the side spaces. But there was an acknowledgement by staff that even with that, they're having, I'll say, friendly competition for that space, and the need to have a second option for that. So that's where you're seeing that larger space there, because even in the current bar room, some events push the size of that space. And we wanted to also allow, similar to upstairs, that purple space, that lower courtyard, really look at how do we allow events to flow between the two. So the large blue meeting room is about the same size as the purple, so events can flow in and out with a full set of people. But at a very high level, that's what we're doing. And ultimately, I'm going to say,
I went ahead.
those were the numbers that Dina's
Okay.
going to talk.
Was it just really fast? I can't see 'em.
I thought it was right on cue.
I'm going to
Thank
very
you.
briefly talk about the numbers and then introduce Jason up here to talk a little bit more in depth, because he understands it much better than I do. However, we wanted to share with you very early and, crystal ball estimates of what the project will be. And then this slide specifically showcases the library's contribution to the project. As I shared earlier, there's legal limitations with how a library can contribute to its own capital project. There's actually a limit to how much we can even save, which doesn't make a lot of sense, right? In your head, you think, well, why can't you just save for these things? And it does make sense, but it's important to share that there are limits to how much revenue that we can save and hold in our back pocket. But we have been doing that over the years, and we also have investments. So right now, the total estimated project cost, and that is with significant contingencies. We've been asked to add additional contingencies because of, tariffs and inflation and that type. So you'll see the actual project of construction is a little over 16 million. And as Kevin shared earlier, a significant portion of that is just about the repairs of the building. So the additional is, okay, we're investing in this project. Where are the patrons improvements? Where are the staffing improvements? The contingencies are around 7 million right now. Obviously, we don't have a crystal ball. A year from now when it goes to bid, we hope that that's not the case, that we're not looking at 7 million in contingencies, but we want to build that in just in case. So soft costs around 2 million. And so we're looking at a little bit under 26 million as a very high estimate for the project cost. The next area on the bottom left is existing Morrison Reeves Library tax revenue that we have reserved available to contribute. It's a little over 1 million. This doesn't touch our operational balance. This is just money that we've put aside over the years for library improvements and rainy day. We also have investments, around $4.5 million worth of investments that we have available that we can contribute to the project as well if needed. So we would be looking at borrowing about 18.7 million for the project, and then just fees in terms of the cost of issuance is around $500,000. I can't really see the bottom number, so I'm gonna look at my slide. So we're looking at a total contribution to the project is around 23.8 million. I'm gonna allow Jason to share the funding capacity. But just for context, while he comes up here, if you look at the map, I just want to share this because I think this is important. Even though if you see on the map, it shows that Morrison Reeves is in the yellow, all the areas in green, we also serve. The areas in red are areas where other libraries serve. We actually serve 11 townships in Wayne County. That's kind of this unknown thing. People don't realize that. So even though we're focusing on, this project says Richmond, it's a huge improvement for all of Wayne County as well. All right, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, and good morning, council members. Jason Tansel with Baker Tilly, and Dina has already provided an excellent overview of some of the costs and financial implications, but I will go a little more in depth as to the tax rate impacts and the bonding capacity of the library. Currently, the library has no bonds outstanding. And so I do want to reiterate that if we are looking at a bond, any bond in any amount would be an additional tax rate increase that the library would consider. As Dina has laid out, we are currently looking at a borrowing amount of $18,720,000. And with the gifts and grants and cash on hand that the library is already contributing to this project, this will provide $23,815,000 for this bond would not anticipated to be issued until next year, 2026. And so if we were to receive approvals and move forward, this would not have a tax rate impact in 2026, but it would rather have a tax rate impact in 2027. This bond would also be a 19-year, 6-month repayment term. The maximum that a bond can be in Indiana from a repayment term perspective is 20 years. So this would go the almost full amount that is allowable to the library. And using a 6% interest rate, we would estimate the interest cost of this to be $13,854,000. I do want to stress here that that is a 6% interest rate. We are trying to provide flexibility and conservative estimates. Today, the interest rate market for a bond would be closer to 4.5%. So we are trying to be conservative with that estimate. But again, as Dina mentioned, right now with this bonding amount and the cash contribution of the library, we are estimating a tax rate increase of 10.24 cents. But what does a 10.24 tax rate impact mean to taxpayers? We have another slide that is not within this presentation, but it is within the presentation that has a cover that looks like this. But we have a range of tax rate impacts to taxpayers within the library's jurisdiction that provides ranges of home values on an annual and a monthly basis, agricultural land assessments, commercial assessments, so on and so forth. Really just want to draw your attention to the fact that this 10.24 cent tax rate increase on the median home within Wayne County would be approximately $53.14. For the agricultural land, this was recently just modified from Senate Bill 1. And agricultural land, we have provided multipliers. We have 1 acre of agricultural land, we have 100 acres of agricultural land. And you can see there that for 100 acres of agricultural land, this would be almost $202 per year. And then finally, on our last row for commercial business property, this would be $102 a year of a tax rate of what the tax dollars would mean for this tax rate increase. Turn it back over to Dean.
All right, sounds good. So as Jason shared, we are not currently, we do not have a debt. It's actually been 50 years since we've asked for a bond or incurred debt. So I hope that showcases that we're very fiscally conservative in terms of how we operate the library. We work within our means. We wouldn't be here and talking about this project if we didn't think that it was absolutely necessary. You know, we're going to be putting netting on the library entrances pretty soon for safety. We're seeing significant issues with the building. As Kevin shared, it's not a vanity project. We're here because we need to, in order to continue to provide services with Morrison Reeves. So again, we wanted to make sure that you had plenty of time for questions this morning and then obviously over the next month as well. I'd be happy to return in July if you reach out with more questions. There's more images in your packet regarding the facility assessment. If you wanted to see the full assessment, I'd be happy to send it along. I didn't print copies because it's a beast, but I can send you digital copies of that as well if you want to see the full array of what's happening with the building. Well, maybe. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have now, or you're talk to me as well.
I've got a question.
Very good.
Bell Creek School Corporation serves Dalton, Perry, Clay, and Harrison Township as well as Jefferson. Those kids use Jefferson Township Library. You contribute what to that library?
Is this a school library?
No, it's a township library.
Hagerstown.
Oh, Hagerstown. So Hagerstown Libraries is a separate library.
Right.
than we are, yeah.
But these 4 townships
Mhm.
go to school at Hagerstown. What do you contribute to the Jefferson Township Library that benefits those 4 townships?
So we have an engagement team whose job is to reach out to communities that don't have an existing physical library. We also have digital materials that we share. So we expand our digital offerings basically for folks that are outside of our area to those other townships as well. We're actually going to be getting a kind of a 21st century bookmobile. I don't know if you're familiar with the bookmobile that we had many, many moons ago. We're bringing something similar like that back at the end of the summer so that we can go out into the communities that aren't able to come into the library as well to bring print materials back and forth, especially for those areas that maybe they don't drive or, you know, maybe they're farmers or the Amish community. So that's where we're at right now in terms of reaching out to some of those areas that are a little further out of field.
I understand what you're saying, but
I think his question revolves around the levy on these townships for the contractual library.
Yeah, it's not a
They're not-
physical library.
They're not really using your library is what he's saying. They're using Hagerstown Library.
Oh, okay, I understand.
Hagerstown Library
Sure.
is financing the support for all these
Gotcha,
students
gotcha.
without the revenue,
Yeah,
and you're getting the revenue.
we are. You know, that was established years ago in terms of what Richmond is supporting, what Hagerstown is supporting. We all share materials. We're all part of the Evergreen system. So in terms of revenue and what it goes towards, Hagerstown and Morrison Reeves and Cambridge City and Centerville Library and Dublin material, we all share the same materials. We borrow out and distribute materials as well. So we are providing support to one another in capacity, but we all have different budgets.
when this started, we had a bookmobile.
Yeah,
that serve these individual communities. We don't have that anymore.
You are bringing it back. At the end of August, we've been able to finance that through mostly non-revenue funding, where it's being built right now. It's not gonna look the same. It's gonna be more accessible, but we're gonna be bringing materials back out into those communities that can't reach towards us, or like you said, maybe they're going to Hagerstown because it's geographically closer to them. We're gonna be serving those communities more successfully in the future. By the end of this year, definitely.
Appreciate that because I don't feel like these townships got the benefit that they was paying for.
Which is why we're bringing the bookmobile back. Absolutely.
So the increase that you're talking about for the bond
Mhm.
will not affect the contractual line item.
It's just through the Morrison Reeves.
So it's just for Wayne Township, is that where that?
Just for the tax impact is just Wayne Township. Yeah, we are not touching the Wayne County contractual tax impact. It's a separate budget. It's just not, it's not a significant amount. It wouldn't have an impact if we were to have two bonds, or it wouldn't make sense. Yeah, that's a good question.
Misty?
Yeah, so under the gifts and grants, are those dollars that you're expecting to raise from the community?
No, we already have it.
So will you continue to raise, or you're just saying we're done at 4 million?
It depends, if when we get to that point where we're starting to see actual costs come in and we think it's gonna be much higher, we hope to have a little bit of time, but if we're not able to reach that, then we'll have to reevaluate what the project is. We may have to cut a couple of things out.
Sure.
Because once we've committed to the bond amount, anything more has to come from us. But we don't plan on a fundraiser or anything like that currently, but that's where we're at.
Other questions? Jason, I'd like for you to review again the impact on the homes and the agricultural land and what it would do on business, personal property versus real property.
Absolutely. So the annual impact on the median home value in Wayne County is $53.14.
What is the median home value in Wayne County?
For the US Census Bureau, it is approximately 136,000. For 100 acres of agricultural land, on an annual basis, this would be $201.85. And then on commercial property, this would be $102.40.
For what?
So this is actually dollars paid from this new levy that the library would
But on the business, you say $102
annually pay. So of an increase of property taxes paid
of real property.
of real, yes.
Just as a little bit on your total financials, the impact that the budget or the caps have on your budget, as well as what you see coming because of Senate Bill 1.
So in terms of the future forecasting, we're currently lose about 33% of our property tax revenues through tax caps. I've kind of forecasting around maybe if we lose 50%, I mean, that's kind of a high estimate that Jason and I have discussed in terms of, if we bond, what would that look like? It'll be challenging, but we would still be able to operate. Now, I know there's also concern about the local income tax. Right now, most of our revenue is through property tax and local income tax. We don't have a lot of other tax revenues. That's pretty much it, unless people donate or the Friends of the Library able to work and provide funding for us as well. So when one of the other changes to SEA 1 is that libraries will need to go to their councils, I believe starting for 2028, to negotiate what lit might be for us. So you would see all of the libraries in Wayne County at that point. There would be kind of a pool for us to share, and we'd go from there. So it would be even more challenging if we lost lit as well. I mean, those are our two main sources of revenue, our property tax and lit. So I don't have a crystal ball. The project is a separate element For us, we're spending around $100,000 a year between repair and lack of energy efficiency in our current building. So the improvements would help us save money in that in terms of our operating cost. But I have forecasted, I actually have printouts if you want me to share that in terms of like, here's where we're at now if we didn't see any impact. Here's where we would be if we lost about 50% of our property tax revenue. Here's where we would be if we lose our lit. If we lost both our lit and we had a higher tax impact on our property revenue, our property tax revenue, we would have to save cut about 16 to 18% of our operating spending, which would be significant, but we would be able to continue to operate. We would just have to kind of negotiate and reprioritize.
So currently, what's the percent of your revenue, property tax versus lits?
That's a good question.
Currently, the library's general fund levy is about $2.5 million. And the local income tax that the library is able to receive today is approximately $600,000.
Thank you. Additional questions?
No, I guess I just want to make sure, I'm grateful to see so many people in the audience supporting Morrison Reeves. But I think the reason Max is asking that question, just for the audience watching and here, is every taxing unit is having to look at how to respond to Senate Bill 1. And so one of the things we've talked about is bringing all taxing units in to talk about the impact. Because what I don't think we want to see is, oh, you're adding a tax, and then we might have to add a tax, and then another taxing unit adds a tax. And the impact overall for all of our community could be devastating if we don't do it properly or as partnerships. So I think this is, while it's timely, I think one of those conversations is just how does this impact overall for everything as we move forward?
Yeah, the timing is very challenging.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the state has put back onto us this opportunity that people may think that we will want to implement an income tax that we don't get the revenue for. So that'll be a tough decision and discussion leading up to whatever action we either take or don't take.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it's challenging times and there's still a lot of unknowns. And we'll see what changes to legislature over the next couple of years as well.
So I would encourage anyone in the audience or in the public and TV or whatever to get with the library, get with Dina, ask her questions, be prepared for a public hearing that will take place when they do return. If that's August, that'll be advertised. Whenever it is, it'll be advertised. The opportunity for anyone to speak pro or con on the issue will be a part of that discussion. But leading up to that, I would encourage anyone that does have questions to get those answers, to better understand what this need is at the library and how they intend to take care of that. Anything else that we need from the library at this time? Appreciate you folks being here.
Thank you.
If any additional information that comes up that you feel would be important to us or of interest, please forward that.
Absolutely.
And we'll look forward to seeing all of you in August.
Sounds good. Thank you all. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time this
Thank
morning.
you. Okay. Mr. Rickenbach.
Good morning. You have your biweekly project sheet in front of you and have a couple of items left on that. Worked out that project. Fairgrounds parking, we're waiting on the drainage plans. I know that Brandon and the highway department have been particularly slammed with right-of-way permits that they're having to process for fiber installation. Brandon indicates last week they got about 70. So their time's been taken with processing those permits. So as soon as they get leg up on that, they'll get back on our drainage plan. The maintenance fence around the maintenance building, the security fence, the commission did receive quotes. Those, they've taken those under advisement as they consider that. Courthouse front entrance, you've looked at the process or the project. The outside wall's been poured and finished, and now they are laying the foundation. I think it should be poured this morning on the center planning area, and then they'll go to the steps. We do have a progress meeting this morning at 10 o'clock with our with LWC, our engineering firm, as well as the contractor. Crossguard lock system, talked to the contractor on that. They still anticipate that they'll be finished by the end of this month. The commissioners will get what I think will be the final look at the Crossguard policy today and have that prepared for passage. Max, I did send you a copy of it, as well as there'll be a time here in the next couple of weeks that we need to get Crossguard issues for each one of you folks as well.
Okay.
And then the courthouse elevator, still awaiting the bid information back from LWC on that. And again, just as soon as we have financial estimates on that, you'll be brought into the loop.
It's the flue removal, the next phase of that.
Pardon me?
The flue with removal will be the next
The
phase.
next bid will be the flue removal, as well as, remember, this is going to stop at the first, second, and third floor. The second floor has that large Civil War mural that needs to be, so, because that's where the door would be for the elevator. So that is part of this bid as well, moving that. And the commissioners will be discussing that today of where that would be relocated in the courthouse. I did put in the lower right-hand corner, just so you can keep track of your funds there. The lower right-hand corner has your current balance as of yesterday in your council one-time funds. But I also did put, remember, you made a commitment, or at least you indicated where you're going to pay for the police vehicles out of that. So that number below that is what you've committed towards that current balance, just to keep you up to date on that as well. Any other questions? Thank you.
One item of new business I feel I had no place on my agenda. Ron, you've got a presentation briefly here.
Briefly, I'm here, you should consider reappointment of your representative to the County Development Commission. Members are, capture TIF, assessment TV, team, so we got time next week to. But we aren't terribly active. We have a spending plan that we'll start working on that based on what we can see now. Probably pick up on the concern everyone has over Central One. I think the capturing funds is essential to maintain needed flexibility. Some capital requirements that we can anticipate. But we will be developing another spending plan, just as we did last year, that has to be by December 1, that will handle the outline of expenditures for food. So the step basically is reappoint your representatives. They serve a 1-year term or until their successors are elected. Basically, your 1-year term will end next January, so you've already got 5 months under your belt.
Any questions of Ron? I have here the certificates of appointment for.
I would just add the rest of the commission for the benefit of something. The commissioners have 3 appointees. They are Jeff Blaster, John Cady, and Kyle Clark. Kyle serves as president of the commission, Beth is vice president. I have contacted to those individuals. They are willing to serve again for, so there's there's good stability on that board. And I think that fiscally conservative perspective are funding opportunities that the state's reminding us we better rely.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve signing these certificates of appointment for Beth and Gary for the commission? So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, aye. Any opposed?
Ensure they said yes.
Probably a good idea. Okay, I'll get these signed, Ron, and thank you.
Do we need to have a motion to recommend capturing 100% of the revenue?
You don't need that. I think I think you are the two appointees, so you determine what you think you need to represent the body that has appointed you. So tell you what you do or do not need, but I think the commissioners are endorsing that concept. Consistent with what was done in the past when we didn't have the, if you will, ramifications of Senate Bill 1 to concern ourselves with. So like a discussion on that topic, it's certainly appropriate.
There will be some major expenditures happening in the industrial park and
Well, we have the
water system.
The water system.
If someone wants to make a motion to that recommendation to them, we'll accept it. Otherwise, I think Gary and Beth understand thoughts and desires, and that will be carried out fine.
I'd make that motion so that way it's clear council's intention is to capture that. So I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. Have a motion and a second to recommend that the commission capture the full amount of TIF funds that are available to be collected. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Laster.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Just a couple of quick things, I hope. We're in the midst of planning for several projects in addition to the thing that Steve has already alluded to. I just want to put those on the front burner, so to speak. I sent out to you earlier this week some information about a request for funding from Help the Animals. If you'll recall, Help the Animals is the organization that the county has contracted with to house animals that the sheriff's department has had to pick up for one reason or another. We have a very good working relationship with them, and they've got some needs, and we're in the process of looking at that. Wanted to get that on your radar. It's a total project of about $48,000. So we'll be looking at that, and the commissioners haven't discussed it in any detail yet. So fiscal body, we wanted to bring that to your attention. So we'll be looking at that in more detail in the coming weeks. We have a request from Union County Transit. It has not been a particularly vocal issue in the past, but we have contracted with Union County Transit for many years. I want to say about 15, and they actually have vans and drivers that you can call, and they'll come pick you up and take you to a doctor's appointment or what have you, and bring you back for a small fee. We subsidize that $10,000 a year. It's been $10,000 since its inception. My guess is that they may be asking for more than $10,000 going forward, but we're going to have them in to give us a report on how many people they've transported in the last years, and listen to their request. We'll let you know. In fact, I talked to Max earlier this morning about the possibility of inviting them to come to a workshop so that we're all here to hear that presentation. I think you're all aware of issues with WCTV and their funding. That's something that we're going to need to address in the not too distant future. We've been looking at the franchise fees that we collect. It is somewhat sporadic, and the Comcast, which has always been the mainstay of our franchise fees, has been going down over the years. But we are now getting some franchise fees from Charter as they've come into Wayne County and are not only providing internet, but also some television services. Again, it varies a little bit depending on how many people are signed up with those cable companies, but this past year, it was about $32,000. We have committed $25,000 for 2025 in operational support. We also gave them $35,000 this year for equipment purchases. So that will be on the table, discussion of how we want to handle that. Again, our estimate would be at current levels in the low $30,000 range for franchise fees, but the legislature this session reduced the franchise fees by 20%. So it'll go from a 5% franchise fee to a 4% franchise fee. So that will reduce the amount of money that we have available. So again, we'll need to talk about how we want to approach that. We are in the midst of discussions. WCTV has made a proposal to us for approximately $40,000 a year to do the videography and streaming. We feel like we have a pretty good handle on that. We've been kind of practicing over the last month and a half. It seems to be working fairly well. The one equipment purchase that if we do this ourselves, that we would need is probably to invest in a new owl. I think the one that we're currently using is 10 or 12 years old. The technology has improved fairly significantly, I'm told. So we'll be looking at that and talking to you all about your thoughts there. Health insurance, we're in pretty good shape with health insurance. The reserves that we need to maintain are climbing this year. Last week we were at about $3.9 million. We will be having discussions with Dunn, our administrator, next week or two. We'll let you know when that meeting is going to be. Not sure yet whether it's going to be as part of a commissioner meeting, but you to have the opportunity to participate in those conversations as we hold those. We feel like we're in pretty good shape financially with the health insurance program, but it can vary dramatically from year to year depending on the health of our employees. So we'll have those discussions. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is financial planning. I know you've been working with Baker Tilly. I think we have talked in the past a little bit about trying to provide information for all of the taxing entities in the county. Not sure whether you want to go through Baker Tilly to try to provide that, whether you want to work with the AIC or the Commissioners Association. Has some folks that are becoming better tuned in to what the implications are. I think most of us know that there were changes in the last week of the legislature that changed some of our scenarios. We were anticipating about a $2 million decline in the county's revenues initially. My assessment of that is some of the changes that were made could allow that to be reduced closer to the $1 million mark. But again, I may or may not be aware of every single change that has taken place. So we want to get some more qualified perspective on that. And we want to be able to share that with the other taxing units. So I guess I'm asking you if you have a preference on how we go about that. As the fiscal body, if you all want to organize that, that's fine. If you'd like the commissioners to do that, we can do that. But I don't want to step on anybody's toes there. I know, Barry, I think you were taking the lead on some of that conversation with Baker Tilly.
Yeah, we have well, I've contacted Baker Tilly about updating the data in the report based on the final hours of the session and what impact it would have. We've also received an additional scope for financial planning from Baker Tilly on council's behalf. We've not taken action on that. I reached out to Jason again this week. I think he's on vacation. I'd really like for him to come back, meet with council and commissioners as a whole, maybe at a workshop. So we're not duplicating efforts here.
Sure.
Then we, both the 10 of us, as you say, can make the decision if we want to engage Baker Tilly for that purpose, or if we want AIC or commissioners to do that.
State Board of Accounts has scheduled a meeting for the 21st of June for council, statewide meeting to talk about the ramifications of Senate Bill 1. I did contact DGLF 2-3 weeks ago requesting them to come and talk with us about this. After being shifted to 2 or 3 different people, I did find out that they are not going to be doing that, but they strongly encouraged that we, as council, attend that meeting on the 21st. Currently, I know 4 of us have reservations for that, and if any of the others could attend, I'm sure that would be a very worthwhile meeting. Jeff Kapp and I attended, and I believe Kathy was at the last year meeting, and it was very helpful. And with all the changes that's coming about, I would encourage everybody that can to be at that meeting on the 1st.
I'm planning to attend as well. I think it's important that we're all on the same page about what exactly is happening and what the implications are for us and for the rest of the county on it.
It'll be good to participate in the discussion because there'll be questions from council members all over the state of Indiana. Some of their issues would be probably similar to ours. Some of them might not, but taking part in that discussion would be, I think, very helpful, and we'll hopefully know a lot more after that meeting on the 21st.
I will say that both folks at the AIC and at the Commissioners Association, and I'm on the legislative committee for both of those groups, they have asked that we as we identify what is the implications for us, what exactly has this cost us in terms of funding. They want to know what those details are. Their speculation, just as you mentioned, is it will impact each county differently, and probably each city within those counties differently, depending on their current makeup of property tax versus income tax and so on. So they want to gather that data so that they can be prepared to go back to the legislature next year and ask for any modifications to legislation that might be necessary, might be helpful. So
I will say that in my communication with DLGF that they indicated they're still working on trying to get the details put together out of this legislation, and they're not really ready to answer all these questions yet.
Well, if you look at, they send a weekly email, and right at the top of the email it says, we're still trying to figure out what all these legislative changes mean. Please don't contact us with questions right now.
It's embarrassing.
We'll share it with you when we know.
Embarrassing.
It.
Sorry. Not on us, on them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of moving parts there. And
And I'm thankful it's being recorded for me to say that.
Yeah.
Just a couple other quick updates, and there are a lot of initiatives, and you're hearing some of those on housing. We are involved in some of those, most particularly, most recently, the Housing Accelerator, where we're working with developers and builders to try to incentivize construction. Looks like 82 single-family homes. We're committed to $650,000 of consolidated edit and $170,000 of county edit. We have an additional $830,000 of county edit that is committed to housing infrastructure. We're kind of using these first allocations as kind of the guinea pig, the trial to see if we want to commit the others in a round two that might come later. We're talking to folks about the possibility of forming a land bank. As you know, every year we typically have a commissioner sale. Those properties that have been sold in the commissioner sale could also go to a land bank. The land bank would have more flexibility in how they dispose of those properties to their best advantage. And so we're looking at that to see whether that makes sense for the county, but also for the towns who have issues with dilapidated blight that they may or may not be able to deal with through a land bank. So we're gathering information. We'll share that as it becomes available. And then there's also a READY grant application, and the READY grant with the change of administrations kind of came to a screeching halt while it was being reviewed by the new administration. We think that some of those funds are about to be freed up and invested by the state. We did apply for a grant through the Lilly funding. Lilly Foundation contributed $250 million on a statewide basis for blight elimination and think of the term, but artwork essentially. And as part of that grant, the county is working on and the region is working on a public art plan to move forward. But our grant is focused on blight elimination, downtown revitalization, and some housing initiatives. So again, as those ready decisions are made, IEDC, we'll be getting more information to share with you. That's all I have, unless anyone has any questions.
Yeah, I do. And so back to the WCTV, I know we'll talk about the help contract more, but the WCTV part, so that proposal was based on all meetings currently that they cover. So what is required by the law? Because that might be different, look different.
Well, it's based on a guesstimate of, excuse me, how many hours that might require. And you know that sometimes your meetings last 15 minutes and sometimes they last 2 hours.
Yeah,
Ours extend considerably beyond that. And again, sometimes they're 30 minutes. I think commissioners like to say that when I'm not there, they're very short.
Quicker meeting. We may have to start limiting time on how long
So
comments can be from the convention here. So, but as far as
it's a guesstimate.
that's going into place for July, is it just county council and county commissioners meetings that have, so any
Meetings and again, we're trying to work.
public meetings?
if they're held in this chamber.
Ron?
Ron?
We're trying to work through the county
We
attorneys.
actually have a list,
Estimate.
and it's literally a simple matter of going through and you see which boxes that the organizations check. They're not required, it's important to understand, if they haven't been meeting in our chambers, they're not required to meet just because they're a public entity. Meet wherever they choose to meet or available to them. So
But the plan commission, the BZA,
some of
the
them are
health,
the easy ones.
the health board meets in here, all of those meetings.
And I think that was a part of the proposal, but I just didn't know if that, again, I think my question is if it's just, if the spirit of the law is that we're looking at just just council and commissioners, but it sounds like it's not.
Not at
Okay.
all.
Much broader.
That's not the spirit of the law.
Okay. And then is it required then too that it has to be, like, once it's, I mean, we can live stream it, but does it have to go to a place that people have to access?
We do that now. We've been doing that.
So you're saying the county has the staff, the manpower to take away from the IT department without overtime or any of that? And we can talk about that later. I guess that becomes my question.
I believe so.
Because I'd like to see the comparison if we contract it with WCTV versus what we're doing on our own. Because I would just like to see the comparison.
We can do that.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah. Jeff, you have any numbers on the animals we take to the help center?
Yes, and I don't have it with me this morning, but you saw in the documents that I sent to you earlier, 331, I think, was the number of animals that were taken in, and 150 dogs were. I'm sorry, 331 was the number that they adopted out. 150 of those were dogs. I have a report. It's in the hundreds. And we are currently paying them $200 for each dog that we take them and $50 per cat. But we also just this year started an additional $100 for any of animals that we take them that need to be spayed or neutered. And that's usually 80 or 90% of them need to be spayed or neutered. So most of the dogs we're paying $300 a piece for, and we'll end up spending we're on track for a little over $50,000 for this year. But again, it varies so much from month to month that it's hard with only 1 year of experience to know exactly where we're. Part of the issue with comparing beyond 2024 back in time is that the shelter that we used then frequently told us they're full and they can't take any more animals. So they didn't. And so we don't know how many we would have taken them if we'd had space. Help in 18 months almost has never turned us away. They've always found a way to accommodate our needs. So I'll update the numbers. There's a monthly report that the invoices are based on. They took this many animals at this rate. So I can get that for you, Gary, and I'll get it out to all of you.
A question. You said I was looking at your email. We sent them 331 animals, 150 were dogs.
Sorry, that's how many animals.
Yeah, so do they not charge us for those other animals, the cats or whatever it is?
$50 a cat.
Okay.
But those are not animals that we took to them. Those are the 331 is the number that
They adopted out. I'm sorry.
I don't think it mentions that because initially it wasn't directed to the county.
So the request is on top of, like, we're saying it's $50 a cat, $100 a dog. And then the request that you're coming to us for is on top of that.
But again, we're just at the very beginning stages of discussion. We haven't had any discussions with health yet. Talking to the foundation, the request originally went to the foundation. So we will try to answer your questions if you share those with us.
Okay.
Commissioner Dwinger has some good ideas, I think, in terms of how we might approach help and negotiate
on what we can do, but the key for me is we want to make sure that they're able to continue to take all the animals that need to be taken there. Having space is one of those issues. And this helps to address that.
And the city currently doesn't use it.
No, they
Use them
use
today.
a place in Henry County.
Yeah, okay.
Anything
Jeff.
else? All right. Thank you very much.
Do we have any other announcements or questions from council? Do we have anyone in the public that has anything for our meeting here? Not, we have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned and we'll move to Finance Committee.
We'll call the meeting to order and I need a motion to approve the minutes.
So move.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? There are none. Motion carries. Brandon Sanders, you've got a big deal here today. This is funny.
Well, the good news is I'm not asking for money today. Just asking to move it around.
Where to do it?
You only have 30 seconds because we're paying for this. No.
All right, I'll make it quick. I've got two transfers before you today. The first one is on our 701 G Street Bridge. Just a little bit of backstory. We've got two funds currently set up for this. One is the federal funding that we pay 80% of the invoices. The other one comes directly out of our bridge fund, the 20%. Back in February, we submitted an invoice of just under $41,000. A little bit of hindsight on my part, the funding reimbursement total was way less than that amount. So what I need to do is I need to just transfer out of the bridge fund back over to the federal fund to bring it back in compliance, basically. So I'm requesting to transfer the $19,686.86 from the bridge fund back to the federal fund.
Anybody have any questions about that? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? There are none.
Okay. And the second one is on our federal reimbursement. We are allowed to put multiple invoices on one reimbursement form. When you do the math individually on the two invoices that was submitted together, we come up with a rounding error of a penny. So NDOT gave us the combined 80% instead of the individual 80%. So we need to transfer 1 penny from the Hume Bridge back to the federal.
I think we ought to take that under advisement. We should do it for.
I brought that to us. You transfer 1 cent there. I mean.
Just trying to be transparent.
Okay. We have a motion by,
Bring it to us.
Barry. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Surely not. Okay. Thank you so much. We appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
Okay, next I have Corey George.
Morning. Here on two different matters for two different departments, but the first is for the public defender budget or office, and the request is for a transfer of $2,000 from 33,200 to a new line that we're requesting for overtime, 1340. Previously in the public defender's budget, there was not an overtime line. There are two staff who qualify for overtime, and one of them has worked some overtime this year. So that's the request. In the 2026 budget, we did address that and requested to add a line. Happy to answer any other questions.
I'd move we create the line 1340 and the public defender.
Missing number.
13,640. That's okay.
Oh, okay. 13640. For the public defender overtime.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Second.
To create the line. Yeah,
Create the
motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor? Anybody opposed? I'm sorry, my brain's thinking ahead. So then we just need to transfer the money from the 33,200 to the 13,640.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none.
Thank you.
Is that all you have?
So
That's
the
what I
second
thought.
request is for the CASA Fund 1213. I came before you before on an underpayment issue for the CASA director. The council contingency, I believe there is a request out there. I don't see it on this agenda that will fund the majority of that underpayment. The request for the transfer here, and I do note that there is a typo on the agenda. The request amount should be $401.19, or excuse me, 19 cents.
That's what the form says.
So the 401.19 from 33,200 to the program director line 10,353. And that's out of the CASA Fund 1213.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none. We got you taken care of. Thank you so much.
Did you say there was something missing?
Did we do that at our last meeting?
I'm not sure. I believe that.
We
the
did, we
contingency
did it
fund?
out of contingency last time. Yeah.
Okay.
So that
You're all set.
close that matter.
Yes, you're set. Thank you. Is Tara coming or are you
No.
just gonna talk about this? Okay.
Tara has a bill that's left from last year's election that the county received last year. But clerk at that point, which was not, Tara did not submit a claim to get that paid. The money was budgeted for it, but since it was not spent, it reverted back to the general fund. The invoice is $10,887.70. And that, since this year of 25 is not an election year, there's not ample funds in that budget to cover that from last year. I will also say that the total unspent funds from the election board last year was approximately 29,000 that reverted back into the general fund, which included that was not paid. So I would move that we pay the invoice to HARP Election Services of $10,887.70 out of cancel contingency fund.
Second.
Wait a minute. The amount is 13,864. On the one I have.
The one I have is
That's weird.
887.
Oh.
Oh, that's another issue that she'll come forward with later.
I think that's a software.
This is for software. So there's gonna be two. Oh, well, the paperwork that they gave me is for the software.
This, what we're addressing today is.
Okay, so there's no claim for that one yet.
Expenses yeah,
Okay,
so it's $10,887.70.
okay.
And she's gonna get additional information to us on that bill you're speaking.
Okay, it's from last year also. Okay, so we have a motion and a second for the
Interesting.
invoice. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none. And I guess we have to wait on this other
Yeah.
one. There's already a claim, but
I asked her to get some additional
Okay.
information on that.
gotcha.
I might say that Tara is currently in Washington DC as a guest with the state Secretary of State at an election conference. So the state was paying her expenses there. She'll be returning late tonight.
All right, thank you. That's all we have on finance.
Move adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed.
So, all right, I'll call to order the June 4th, 2025 Personnel Committee.
Move to approve the minutes of
Second.
this meeting.
Moving us along.
I guess. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none. First thing on our agenda that we need to talk about and give consideration, if you recall last month, we provided to you a draft policy of the Personnel Committee guidelines for posting open positions, creating new positions, and consideration of reclassification. Council and commissioners asked that that be sent to all department heads and elected officials for review and comment. Pam did send that out, and I think I heard from one department head and 3 elected officials. Their comments were included in revisions that they had asked for, and any questions they had, the answers were provided. So before you today is the updated policy that has a lot of what was in the 2016 policy, but in a nutshell, based on, we're going to get tired of hearing this about Senate Bill 1, any position that is currently in the salary ordinance and funded that a department head or elected official requests to be filled, instead of being an automatic posting, there'll be a due diligence process conducted between council and HR to determine if that position will be posted. So with that, I'll try and answer any questions you have. If not, entertain a motion for approval.
I move we approve the presented revised Personnel Committee guidelines.
I'll second that.
In a second, any discussion?
Thanks for all your work on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
And Beth had to leave early, but she is in support of that as well.
Thank you. We're going to alter the agenda here in respect, not disrespecting anyone's time, but I believe Judge Moore has people waiting on him. So.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Good morning.
Morning, Judge.
And good morning, Mr. Cross. Good to see you. Essentially what I'm asking for, and I think in light of the policy change and the discussions you had this morning regarding that policy, one of the things historically that I know that you have very much accommodated and has been discussed, I've only been on the bench for 5 months, but what I can confirm is that the volume is significant. The workload is significant. I do work a ton of hours, which is just fine. I'm used to that and built for it. It's not the issue. The issue is that the staffing really doesn't meet the need. And I think that's been a discussion that you have had over the years. I don't speak for any of the other judges, but I know that we have discussed recently regarding utilizing the guardrails that have been put up already that you have accommodated. In 2024, the budget was allowed, and we were budgeted line items 10,982, 10,983, 10,984. I'm asking to fill one of those positions. Essentially what that does is it allows for when one person is out or missing or on vacation or calls in sick or has any FMLA issues, things like that, anything that results in understaffing in the court, because we have 3 current employees. In the event that anyone misses or is unable to come into work, it essentially shuts down the ability for a court really to conduct a jury trial, to conduct all the things in business that we normally do. It creates a significant workload on the other 2 people that are there. So essentially, I think what we need is to add that position that has been already funded. But in light again of the recent policy that you've put in place, I think that it was appropriate to come forth so that you could do your due diligence to discuss it with HR as to what the needs are. But I can assure you that the needs are there and that we do need that 4th person. I only speak for myself. I don't speak for the other judges, but those discussions have been held. I think I come as the vanguard to get the feel for whether or not this can actually happen. There's obviously infrastructure problems with the other court, but two of the courts upstairs, we do certainly have room for a 4th person. What I'd like to do and propose is the necessity for this person to help accommodate the workload of the court staffs, 1, and 2, in the event of a need in the other courts, my court is well suited for training purposes as well as for providing services to the other courts in the event that they are missing people, so that short of there being multiple outages of employees or people not coming in or calling off or whatever it might be. And that historically hasn't been a problem, but if people are not able to be there, this fourth person for Superior Court number 1 would also serve and be trained by the other courts to fill in and float. So while this person would certainly be a Superior 1 court employee, I believe that at least in the interim, the training process would be through all the court systems and to be able to understand and accommodate each of the judges and their staffs so that we could also fill in those positions. So while I certainly am advocating for this position to be filled, again, I believe I'm acting as a vanguard for at least minimal potential for those other positions to be filled as well. So
I appreciate your willingness to have that person available to assist where needed in the system. So
yeah,
that's great.
I think it's an accommodation issue. I think that, we certainly do have the need. I think you've probably heard that over the years. And again, I only speak from my own experience over the last 5 months serving as judge. But what I can tell you is the volume is there, the workload is significant, and it does impact the employees. They already work. And I think there's going to be some discussions perhaps in the budget workshops that are upcoming regarding extending their hours. They already are, I think they're budgeted at 37.5. So this position would be a 37.5 hour fill. But with the anticipation that during the budget talks, we'd move that up. So there's guideline, the guardrails that are currently in place, I think give us the flexibility to at least add some time, add some work product to be filled by staff. So we want to work within that for now and see where we go in the future. But I think that at least at a minimum, this position could be filled, trained across the board, and used as a floater in the event of a need. Hopefully, we move forward in the more filling those positions in the future. But I think for now, this is a good step forward. So I'm asking for that position to be posted so that we can consider candidates for filling.
I look forward to seeing how that works on the cooperation between the courts for that employee. So good.
So help me. So do all courts, so you have a bailiff, scheduler, currently right now, not with this new.
Yeah, right now we have a court reporter, a bailiff, and a scheduler. I think they're listed as reporter, bailiff, and legal assistant. So I'm not sure what the distinction is in legal assistant, quite frankly. Again, I think those are issues that have been brought up historically as to what classifications they have and what value they bring, essentially, and what their qualifications should be. But that being said, or what they're valued at. But that being said, the fourth position I think is categorized as legal assistant. If that answers your questions.
Are all courts have the same, or does some have 4 and some have 3?
Or a judge.
Yeah, Superior Court 1, Superior Court 2, and Circuit Court all have 3 employees.
Okay.
And those are the court reporter, the bailiff, and the scheduler.
Okay.
Yeah. In looking at other counties, and again, I don't, presume to make comparisons, but other counties have significantly larger staffs with similar loads, but smaller clerk's offices. So I don't know if they are adjusting from a smaller clerk to a higher court load, or if it's the other way around. But irrespective of that, we certainly know that I've learned that over the past 5 months that workload is significant and we need some relief for our employees.
So you said Circuit, Superior 1 and 2, so 3 only has 2 employees?
No, they have.
I don't know. Yeah.
They have additional employees because they do a whole lot of
Superior
different.
3 is on a different budget.
It is, okay.
They have more.
Interesting. I mean, I was fascinated this year to see how many judges the state removed.
Yeah, there's been a
Quite
significant
interested in
discussion
that.
regarding that. Some magistrates were removed, some courts were removed, but
Yeah.
I think that's been adjusted and minimized.
So just for a reminder, the judge had indicated that council created these 3 positions in the courts in the 24 budget. Originally, we've met periodically with the judges. We've heard from Corey. Since those positions were created, that they either didn't have the time to fill those or they were not interested in filling those at the time. The judge did, after the election last year, make a request that those positions not be cut, that he wanted the opportunity to evaluate his court as the sitting judge. And we had done that. His request comes at a time we adopted this new policy that says we'll do our due diligence. But in working through Corey, the judge's request was simply, you created it, you funded it. I think I need it.
I think I appreciate that. And in fairness, I think it took me some time to really realize and make a good assessment myself as to, in order to be fiscally responsible to make that decision. And I think after 5 months, I've come to that conclusion. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Just a bit of historical background, which Judge Berg, back when Judge Snow was on the bench, he basically had it, if you will, a weighted caseload study that was the paradigm for use across the state. And it did in fact point out in very clear terms, at that time, the excessive demand on some of our major courts of general jurisdiction, 3 courts. And I say weighted because not every case has the same drain on judicial resources as the judge can well tell you.
Yeah, correct.
And so that was probably the most thorough examination that had been done to date, with the help of other judges across the state, that again spearheaded by our own.
Yeah,
this isn't new.
I appreciate Mr. Cross bringing that up. The weighted case management system is not, in my opinion, a very good reflection of the workload that judges are actually imposed with. The weighted case load system only deals with new filings. So what you don't realize, and what I think the weighted case management system doesn't realize, is that the cases that are reopened, for example, a dissolution of marriage case, which might resolve after a year or two, would then be reopened for anything from custody to visitation to you name it, whatever those might be. And essentially those cases are starting over. Those do not count towards a weighted case management system. Also additional case types that require significant load that don't factor into the weighted case management system are prisoner litigation. So those kind of things are a significant drain on it's not a drain, it's part of the job duties. It's a significant amount of workload that comes into that again creates that workload for the staff and staff employees. So the weighted case management system, I hope, is not part of the paradigm in which you all are considering when it comes to workload and employee management.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So within the new policy, HR and myself as the chair of the personnel committee are required to do due diligence with the judge and come back with a recommendation for posting or not, or council does have the pleasure, if they deem necessary, to move this forward today, either way.
Well, I like his idea about maybe cross-training and working the other course. But if we approve this one today, then the other course may decide they want to hire their person.
That could certainly happen.
Look at, okay, next year we would have to cut those positions. Wouldn't be fair to the employee if we did. But I think we need to look at this real hard before we go ahead and do this.
And the one thing I've shared with Max, and I appreciate that, is that these decisions will not lay from one personnel meeting to the next, that we have a workshop in the interim that we can take action on these items to move these forward. So I'm hearing that we'll move this forward with due diligence and bring it back at workshop.
One question. Have you talked to the other judges about this cross-training between the officers with one employee? Have you talked to the judges about that?
I have briefly, while it's certainly, I've invited the discussion that if you all were willing to post and allow me to hire that position, that I would actually request them to be involved in the hiring process. That being said, it didn't go much further than that. However, my offer to them regarding assisting their courts was received positively. Our court staff actually already works together. They don't physically work in each other's offices, but I think they do cooperate and corroborate on things as needed. So the answer to your question is, have we discussed it briefly? Has it been received well? Yes. Have they acknowledged or accepted the concept of a Superior Court 1 employee necessarily working in their courts? We've not crossed that bridge yet, but I anticipate it being received well.
We've discussed this before with people between the offices.
Yeah.
And it just never got good reception. Because you need this person today. Well, I need that person in my office, you know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
I think there's some details that need to be worked out on this.
Well,
Good
again,
idea. I like the concept of it.
Yeah.
Just want to be sure that the other courts don't
Well,
just come
each
along
court-
and say, hey, we want to hire this person too now.
I do appreciate that questioning. Each of the courts do things differently. We have different styles. We have different processes. Those processes are developed over time. But I think that, being a relatively new judge, that these processes are things that I think if we're really honest with ourselves, as far as an employee goes, doing these types of things, if they're trained sufficiently, the expectation would be they would be training in my office for a significant period of time and then cross-trained in other courts, that they would then begin to learn the methods and manners that those courts work. And I think they would be received well. So, and it would only be in a situation where a current staff employee is incapable and there's current jury trials or trial settings that requires those staff people to be there.
Thank you, Ron.
You're very welcome. Thank you
Any
for your
other
time.
questions of the judge? If not, we'll take action on this at workshop.
Appreciate that.
Thanks, Judge.
Thank you.
Good.
All right, next, Recorder's Office. Just to post and hire her clerk. Morning, Debbie.
How are you?
Great. How are you?
Good. Actually, I've got two full-time positions to fill. Karen Need, who's been with us for 35 plus years, is retiring at the end of June. So since I'm coming to you now with my open position, I'm asking if I can go ahead and start interviewing for her position as well. So it was, the one that's vacant at this very moment is 10-237. And then Karen's line item is 10-232. They both get paid the same amount, $20.40 an hour. I also have a part-time position open, so I'm gonna be working with half an office right now. I only have one in the office today, so it's been really tough since October. We've been losing. I've hired one. She lasted 2 months. People don't understand how hard this job is, and I need qualified people. So I'm asking to be able to replace those two full-time people. And what I've come up with, because I can't find a part-time candidate that's even remotely close to being able to do the job, I'm asking if I can have two full-time people, 40 hours a week. We work 35 and a half right now. So our salaries aren't competitive with any other office in the building because they're paid higher. They work 40 hours a week, so they're, making more in those other offices. So if I do away with my part-time position and have these two full-time positions be 40 hours a week, I'm actually saving about $18,617 by not hiring a part-time position. Now, these salaries are paid out of my Recorder's Perpetuation Fund, so it's no dollars coming out of county council. They're all from my perpetuation fund. I pay all four of our the two full-time and the two part-time I pay out of RPF. So it's no money coming out of council's budget or anything, but it would actually save my RPF $18,617 if I increase the two full-times to 40 hours and do away with my part-time. One part-time. I have a part-time employee now, but.
It's currently vacated.
Pardon?
The one that's currently vacant is what you're saying to eliminate.
Currently vacated. So I would ask that, I just eliminate that part-time.
And your people that you pay out of your fund, you also are paying their benefits, correct? Out of that fund.
Appreciate your willingness.
So you're requesting, when are you requesting to effectively make the office a 40-hour week instead of the shorter week?
Whenever I hire these two full-time people. So I've got one vacant full-time position now. So as soon as I can find somebody to replace that, I'd like to start them out at 40 hours. And then when Karen retires, I would hire another full-time position or fill her position at 40 hours also. And then Teresa, my chief deputy, volunteered to come in at 8 o'clock when they would come in, and then I'll stay till 5. I usually stay till 7, 9. You know, I'm here a long time anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I'll be here.
So none of these changes have any impact on the general fund. They're all paid for from your perpetuation fund, salary and benefits, and your proposal has a cost savings overall for your fund. Kim, as far as job description for the hours and then a salary ordinance change for each one of those positions. You know, I hate to adopt a new policy and while we know there's going to be exceptions and we've not talked about that, you know, the policy was really adopted as we're looking at general fund implications. These positions coming from the perpetuation fund are outside of that. And so if council entertains approving the posting of the 2 full-time positions, that's your pleasure today.
Is there any problem with your perpetuation fund continually supporting these salaries? Or
As of
going out?
now, we're fine. We do have another back entry project that will be about $200,000 that we're looking at maybe towards the second half of this year into next year. But yeah, we're fine as far as I would say the next 5 years at least supporting those salaries.
Do you know your balance in that fund?
I have that information right here. Currently, it's $769,791. According to your office.
It's kind of
So I'm glad to hear that there's some things coming up that we'll be using some of that.
Yeah, I've got quite a few.
Okay.
Just that 200,000, but on beyond that, I've got extra expenses on records perpetuation.
Have you been incurring overtime expense for these positions? And so is that paid out of the?
We don't work them any overtime. I do it. I do all the overtime.
You've been incurring overtime, but not overtime expense.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
In light of the situation of funds that are paying this, the fact that actually it's going to save the funds some dollars by going to the 40-hour work week, I would move that we allow the posting of these positions as well as with the hiring of the new positions, switching the office to a 40-hour work.
So we have a motion to approve the posting of 10-237 and 10-232 for full-time positions. We have a second.
And include the 40-hour work week.
And include the 40-hour work week. Eliminating the part-time.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? If not, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you for looking at savings opportunities. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys listening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, next is the sheriff, civil process.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Wanted to present to you in light of this new policy, the opening of the civil process tech clerk that will be the current employee's last day will be July 8th. 2025. He's given us ample notice, which I'm very grateful for. It gives us the opportunity to post this position early to try to get that filled. As you well know, this is a critical position within the sheriff's office. The sheriff's office has two primary functions, that being managing the jail and serving and managing the civil process. Without going into great detail, this position has a salary of $47,000, $777.60 per year, and it deals with over 4,000 cause numbers, which generates papers that he's responsible for processing and data entry, et cetera. For over 12,000 individual papers annually. It's a very busy position and one that is critical to the function of the sheriff's office. What I would like to do, like the county has done historically, is get your permission to post this internally. First, among county employees, and once I have the opportunity to accept applications and potentially review those, if a decision's made, that will speed the process. I do have one person that is already cross-trained for that position and is an active participant when the individual that has this position now is absent. So if she were to apply, I do have someone that's already trained for that position.
If she were to apply and you chose to hire her for the full-time, then would you be back with a request to replace the part-time?
I would be. And yeah, as you pointed out, the person that is cross-trained is currently a part-time employee of mine, and I would be back to ask for that position to be posted.
Does the part-time position do the same thing as the full-time employee? Or?
Not all the time. They only do that when there's either that the full-time person is absent for vacation or other reasons, or if there's a backlog in civil process paperwork and those types of things.
Okay. With this position, having someone in it, posting it, understand you won't be able to hire.
Correct.
Or promote from
Correct.
within. Will there be any additional cross training that would take place during the next month?
I don't believe there would be any additional cross training. The only thing that I would potentially, if the person that is currently cross trained for that position were to be selected, then I may ask for some training dollars to train someone that would replace that individual, if that's what your question is.
What's your pleasure? Hold for workshop.
Just to be consistent, I think probably best to hold that to workshop to give anyone a chance to ask questions. We got 3 members that are not here today. So that would be just a 2-week delay, which I would think would fit your schedule. So I don't think he would need to be present unless there's some questions or something. You are going to anyway, so.
So we'll hold for workshop. That's what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Very good. Thanks, Sheriff.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is a clerk's request, and Tara is not here. Anyone else from the clerk's office? This one we will hold. This is a position that has been vacant since 2019, I believe, that the auditor's office actually found had not been filled and alerted the clerk that this position was available, which then.
So it's like, oh, you have a position. Oh, I have a position?
Ding, 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 ding. So this one.
You don't have to tell people that. It's all right.
That was, for the first thing, we have a form.
Sorry.
The office holders have to list,
by category their employees and what they want in salary. So we went ahead and gave them the form, leaving the salary part off, but we wanted to know the number of employees they were gonna have, up or down. It was found when doing that, the clerk didn't know that they had this appropriation number. And that's how we got started on this. So now it's gonna cost the county more money.
If we hire.
If we hire the
If-
person.
Yeah, if you hire.
If we hire the person.
So this one will be held.
Okay.
Yes, and I think we need to go through some
We do.
detailed investigation of this and truly what's needed, since she was not aware of it till recently.
You know, oftentimes in the private sector, we do a workforce utilization analysis to determine if positions are required or need to be filled. And I think that this would be a good example of where one of those may need to.
And we
to
said
take place.
2019, it hasn't been filled since 2019.
They needed them a lot.
Well, Debbie, I remember repeatedly asked that we keep that option available, but she at the time, every time we discussed it, did not want to fill it. And
They have also one part-time that they didn't know about. Full-time and part-time. She's asking only for the full-time.
yeah.
All right, highway. Hey, Mike.
Hello. We're requesting to replace a truck driver. Had a truck driver put in a resignation last week. So going to full more higher paying full time jobs. To replace that person.
Are you still having the big turnover due to the competition in the outside?
Well, we were at full staff for maybe the last month. So that's the first time in a long time, and now we're back down understaffed. So
I don't know how that feels.
we're one person shy for
Pretty
being
much.
full staff.
The request to hire form for this position, I do not have a copy of that, and it requires affirmative action of the commissioners.
It happened after our meeting last week.
So, yeah, so I didn't get a chance, so I want to get on personnel. I said something to Jeff that I wasn't trying to bypass them. I just wanted to get on personnel.
Sure.
To make sure it was heard.
And again, this is non-general fund dollars that's paying this position. So in order to expedite the situation to get his staff back in place, I would move that we approve the request to post and hire this position, subject to the approval of the commissioners.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Not those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Now you can blame commissioners if they don't do it.
Yes.
Salary ordinance. Kim?
Yes. Can I do that from here?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Salary ordinance 2025-6. This is just to clean up previous action that council took for the Wayne Township Assessor's Office. So it's Wayne Township Assessor. We're going to delete 10-923, which is a full-time business personal property clerk, and create a part-time line item of 13,490 in the salary ordinance.
Would move to approve the request.
There a second?
Yep.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Anything else?
AB. Do we want to do that now? Can. I'll add it to the minutes.
Could be that salary ordinance.
We'll have another salary ordinance, maybe at workshop for the recorder's office.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'll give me time to put it in writing. Yeah.
Nothing else? We have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Adjourn.
Still am not.
All right. All rise for the pledge, please. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. We'll go ahead and get started. Mr. Cross, start with you.
Certificates of appointment for your three appointees to the redevelopment. Development Commission. John Cady, Jeff Lester, Kyle Clark. John and Kyle indicated they were willing to continue to serve. John says it's nice. He gives them a chance to get out of that place out there. But let's leave it at that. No.
Okay. You guys, okay
need a
with
motion?
that list? Yes.
You need a motion?
We do.
I'll make a motion to reappoint those three. I would second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
This is down to you, Jeff. All of us have your signature except the one that you're for your appointment, and I have Brad sign that as vice.
Okay. Fair enough.
Okay.
What else?
I think we exchanged some emails. And apparently there's a desire that there become final action on the decision as to whether or not the commissioners wish to.
The needle exchange program we're talking about.
Wish to consider it.
Right.
Going down that path, if you will.
It just seemed to me that 2 years ago, 2-1 vote, we approved extending that program for 2 years. So 2 years runs out June 30th.
And rather than do a resolution because they want finality, and in the event that we were to have a 2-1 vote on the resolution, we'd have to carry it over to another meeting.
Okay.
And that would be after I had suggested, first of all, Bobby, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think our minutes should reflect that we received the recommendation from the local health officer. Was it last?
Two weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, you were on. That is part of our minutes, is it not?
That was in workshop
That's
that
at the workshop.
Dr. Bales came and made the recommendation.
Yeah.
We declare a hepatitis emergency and she would like to continue the needle exchange, SSB, for 1 year.
Okay, so that is part of the record, if you will, as it pertains to, your proceedings at the workshop. I think a motion indicating that having considered the recommendation from the local health officer and having done your own inquiries and investigations to the extent that you felt necessary, that a motion would be in order not to proceed toward affecting an extension of the local syringe program past its June 30, 2025 expiration.
And would we include in that there's no other action necessary, or that's final action that we are allowing it to
Well, I think what you're saying is that
it's authorization
not intend to entertain,
to reauthorize.
to convene a public hearing for, when basically it appears there's a significant mindset that it's probably not appropriate to continue past its current expiration.
Okay.
So, and beyond that, I think we let the process play out how it plays out. I think there might be a means, if they were so inclined, to seek direct declarations from either the State Department of Health or the governor. As I indicated in my email, I don't see that as a very practical.
Likely.
So that way, if whatever you wanted to vote.
Does that meet your?
Based on that advice from our attorney and from my own research and what I'd like to pursue, I'll make the motion to what you said, that we do not pursue extending the SSP as the needle exchange program past the June 30th, 2025 date. And we acknowledge the health department's recommendation that we continue it, but we wish not to.
And do not feel it necessary to convene a public hearing.
Yes. If you could add that to my motion, that's the motion I'll make.
Still your motion.
And due to research and different communications I've had with different community members that work in this every day, I will second that motion.
All right, and I in no way want to cut you guys off from making a statement if you want to make a statement. I know that this has been an issue and you voted against it 2 years ago when we went through the process then.
Which was very extensive and
It was.
a lot of experts, and I just, only thing I have to add, I don't see any significant data from 2 years ago to now that we should extend it. I didn't believe then, and I definitely don't believe in it more now. Other than that, I don't wish to make a statement.
Okay. Aaron, anything else on your end?
Nope.
And I'll say that I did vote to support it 2 years ago. I agree with Brad that there's no significant data that the health department or anyone else, in my opinion, has been able to share with us that shows that it is working to reduce Hep C beyond what the reduction there's been statewide. And there's only, what was it, 6 or 8?
Eight counties, including us right now.
That have that program.
So it's not a significant number that helps make that curve for the whole state.
Having said that, I would say that, if my inclination would be if there were evidence that this significantly helped to reduce the Hep C incidence, I would support it. But I agree, we haven't seen that data up to this point. I'm open to seeing that in the future, but at this point, I see no reason to continue the program. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Will you be in contact with Dan at the
Yes,
Burke account?
I will.
Fine. Again, following up on your certificates of appointment to the redevelopment commission, having made those, we will need to be getting a meeting sometime next week, and I'm kind of looking at Bobby and kind of focusing on Thursday. Is that kind of where we're headed?
I'm waiting to hear back from Kyle.
Pardon?
I'm waiting to hear back from Kyle.
From Kyle.
Kyle, okay. So in any event, I know you've generally alluded to it, but is there a position that commissioners wish to take in way of a recommendation to the redevelopment commission as to the extent to which it should engage in the capture of excess AV for TIF purposes?
My thinking is that we should continue to capture 100% of the assessed value of the area.
Of that which is available to be captured.
Exactly.
A certain amount has already been pledged to support bonds, both dog foods and
I would, if we need a motion to that, I will make that motion that we support 100% recapture of those. And I'll second that.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
I think that's all I have right now.
Okay, Dakota and Steve.
You want to do Adam first?
We can.
Getting me out of the way.
We're trying to save you some time.
Okay, I'll take it.
Just get me out of here.
Thank you for including me on your agenda today. I appreciate it very
It
much.
is our pleasure, Adam.
Thank you very much. What I've brought for you to review today is a contract with an agency known as Hope Alight LLC. Hope Alight is an agency that the probation department has been working with for the past 3 years. So we'd like to continue that relationship. Basically, the simple way to put it is Hope Alight has helped weave something called trust-based relational intervention into our community supervision that we provide to Wayne County. It's a movement that's gaining momentum, trust-based relational intervention. We were very early adopters in Wayne County for that. And again, want to continue to strengthen our skills. This contract, if approved, would be funded by the 2025-26 fiscal year Juvenile Detention Alternatives Grant. I need to say that, JDAI, Juvenile Detention Alternatives Initiative Grant. We have already gotten our award letter for that grant and gotten approval from the state to use part of the funding that we will be receiving in the way that's described in this contract. So really just here today to answer any questions and to request the okay to go forward with.
I reviewed it. Thank you.
I see no reason not to.
Be. Absolutely. Let's keep the process going. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to let him go forth and be prosperous with that. Second.
I think you need your signature on it, is it?
I believe so.
And authorize the president's decision.
Yeah.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any other brilliant words of wisdom you want to share with us?
Just trying to keep it moving. That's all.
I know it's strongly endorsed by Richmond Community Schools.
Yes, absolutely.
Support staff and counseling and juvenile.
We have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Will a signed copy be forwarded down to our office, or how does that work?
Did you bring copies? Bobby has a copy.
Bobby has it. The keeper of all papers and all important stuff.
Don't go anywhere. Stay right there so you can get back to.
Do what you need to do with it.
And this has places for all three of the commissioners.
Oh, that'd be important.
They want our signature and our initials. Is that what ITS
That's your
means?
title.
That's my title, ITS? What does that stand for?
Sure, but we looked it up once before.
Okay, well, I have forgotten. You know, there's only so much room up there and you gotta clear out the brain pan periodically. ITS. Its title. International.
It's
title
president,
of-
it's vice president, it's member.
Yeah, it's not,
Yeah.
it's not an acronym for
Oh, I
anything.
get it.
It's.
It's
Jeff-
president, it's
Jeff
vice president. it's-
Plaster, it's president,
Ah,
Bradbury,
I got
it's vice president.
Well, all three of those letters are capitalized, so that kind of threw me.
It's the International Tennis Federation.
It took him
Federation?
about 30 seconds to come up with that.
Federation starts with an S now?
I thought you said F. See, I didn't even hear you right.
Do you ever?
Even when you do, you're not sure you did. There's a place for you to sign along with your its. And your its is member. He's a member of the board.
Thank you all again. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Adam.
Have a good afternoon. Steve, is it okay if we go to Dakota now?
Absolutely.
All right, Dakota, you are up.
So I've asked Dakota to come up today to kind of bring you up to speed on how this transition is progressing. And she and the IT department have put together this webpage on our county website. Wanted you to kind of have your input if you so desire. Then we'll talk about this grant that she is working on with the sanitary district.
She is the recycling coordinator. Is that your correct title, Dakota? Well, welcome to the County Administration Building. It's nice to have you with us. And we're looking forward to big things. And just because I might from time to time mention maybe your position would be a better fit with the Richmond Sanitary District as opposed to Wayne County government, it doesn't mean I'm trying to get rid of you. It just means that we need to find the best way to operate this new entity. So with that, go right ahead.
Yeah, so pretty much the only thing on the website is right now is just a mission, which was previously WUR's mission. I haven't messed with any of that.
And it does not reference specifically Union County at all, right?
It doesn't. Yeah, I took Union County out of it. I guess I did mess with it a little bit. But other than that, the only recycling location on here is the Hagerstown transfer station. What they collect. And then there are links right here to the sanitary district, and that does say Wayne Union Recycling Directory, just because I haven't messed with the recycle guide yet either, because I'm waiting on logos and all of that fun stuff.
Worked with IT, their template to incorporate this. And one question it raises in my mind is whether we want to think about changes to the template. I don't know that we do, but does everybody follow this model?
Yeah. So I guess I can add, since I'm here and I'm the one that helped her with the webpage. So yeah, I just went with the basic template that we use for all the other department pages for consistency across the website. We just try to stick within those kind of the boundaries, unless we want to change it overall. I just prefer to keep everything website kind of consistent.
I think we should.
Clean. And then just tried to boil down some of the information. So what we really went from with the WUR website was multiple pages with different kinds of information, and all of course, included stuff that wasn't included in what we need here. So we kind of tried to make it simple to the point where, like, if somebody wants to come to the department page and get that basic information, while still out trying to make it as user-friendly and modern as possible, especially since it was a brand new, fresh page. So we kind of incorporated all of those URLs and all those navigation. All of that is, touchscreen friendly, phone friendly, mobile friendly, all of that. So people, if they search Wayne County Recycling, it should take them directly to the Wayne County website. There's some trouble on whether or not search engines like to take you to the department page rather than the home splash page. But if anyone makes their way to just the Wayne County Recycling page, all the information is there as far as, like, if I need to recycle plastic bags, Kroger's nearby, and you touch their address, it'll automatically open up your navigation, take them straight to where they need to go. So just tried to make it clean and simple and make it easy to navigate and consistent with the rest of the web pages.
Great.
So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Go back up to the very top.
I should have noted too, so the goal of incorporating social media into this new entity. So that's the goal whenever that's approved and everything's set up. So the Facebook widget that's on the side, there's kind of filler material just so you guys would be able to see, like, how we want to incorporate that social media. And basically, it'd be very similar to if you're familiar with EMA's pages, where they post, and so many other social media posts will all be in this one feed. So that way she doesn't have to put information in multiple places.
So is there a Facebook page?
Not yet.
That is in the works. So what we would do is
Still have to get-
once we do make this page public, so it is live and it can be accessed with only the URL. So if any of you need to refer to it or kind of want to make notes on it or anything, but it's not public facing to the point there's no direct links on the website to the public now until approved. And once that is approved, I would remove that commented out for the time being until we can add that functionality.
Okay. Questions about the webpage?
Clear.
That the recycling department now, for lack of a better term. Dakota reports to Steve. Obviously, Steve reports to the commissioners. And so this is a commissioner's department. And we're.
Well, and because of what you have been doing to transition this, I want to make sure we're capturing the intent of what this transition should look like.
And that's where I was headed.
Okay, good.
So if you want to take over, go.
Well, I don't know where you think it's headed, so go ahead.
Where I'm headed with this is there is not yet a well thought through set of objectives for the recycling department. You all know the backstory of WUR and the pretty well universal thought process at Wayne County government that we needed to end that process, and the money that WUR had that came to Wayne County has to be used for recycling. And so we're setting up a process to use those dollars for recycling. We're having conversations with Richmond Sanitary District about how we can collaborate with them to be more effective and to expand their reach beyond their current footprint and potentially out into all of Wayne County. So we may do very similar things that WUR did with tire recycling and hazardous material recycling and those kind of things. We currently are continuing with the recycling site at the transfer station outside of Hagerstown. But what else? Where else do we want to go with this? The conversation with Pat Smoker at Richmond Sanitary District has been that over the next couple of years, they're seriously looking at expanding curbside recycling out into the county. There's a pretty significant expense in equipment and personnel to do that. But according to Pat, it's the only way to increase the percentage of recycling that actually keeps recyclable materials out of the landfill. And so their perspective is if you keep the recyclable materials out of the landfill, it extends the life of the landfill, because opening a new cell, having to start a brand new landfill is enormously expensive. And it would make sense to them to work with us on increasing the amount of recyclable materials that are recycled, set out away and not put into the landfill. So there are discussions about whether at some point we might want to look at reimposing a tipping fee specifically for recycling that would come to the county. I think Ron has been involved in some of those discussions with Pat on what that might look like.
Ron, our attorney.
I'm sorry, yes.
Okay, I'm just making sure which Ron you're talking.
But Ron Oler has been involved in some of the conversations along with Pat about collaborating on.
Well, if I may interject, I would be 100% supportive of those tipping fees. If we're going to do recycling and do it right for the whole county,
exactly,
we're going to need funds. And
Exactly.
if the sanitation department is willing to do that,
And that's what I think we need to work through. What would that look like? Would it be, because as I understand it, the funds would be available for the county to do recycling, but it wouldn't necessarily be available directly to Richmond Sanitary District. So it might end up being county imposes, and it would be us, the commissioners, I think, that would impose that tipping fee. It would come to us for recycling. We could potentially have an interlocal agreement.
that's what I was thinking. Couldn't we do some kind of, even though it comes to us, do an interlocal that part of that money that goes to them for their recycling program that they've already have in place? Because they have a pretty strong recycling.
Absolutely.
But we want to expand it out to the county.
Absolutely. And that's where the conversation came up about, if we do that, would it be more logical for Dakota to work for Richmond Sanitary District as part of that interlocal agreement, where she would work directly with people that are involved in recycling on a daily basis. So we need to work through that, but in the meantime.
She's such a good employee. We want to keep her as a county employee.
Okay. Okay. It sounds like we're going to keep you as a county employee.
The tipping fee then would it be applicable to the transfer station too?
Was it up to this point? I assume so.
Would it be the tipping fee?
I don't know.
Would they charge for a tipping fee each time something's dumped at the Hagerstown transfer station? Or is it just at the?
I don't know.
I thought it
We'll
was
find
just
out.
at Richmond.
I thought it was just at the fill.
Yeah, you're not.
And so,
But could it be?
well, but I think that where a tipping fee would be charged would be where that waste actually goes to a landfill.
Gotcha.
And
Yeah, that's just a station that.
yeah, it's a
that-
building
it's-
that they collect it in.
And then they take it to here or where to Cincinnati, wherever it goes.
I think a lot of it goes to the Richmond landfill.
And that's where the tipping fee would come in place, I believe.
I believe that's correct because it's a fee that's charged because you're putting stuff in their landfill.
Yep.
So anyway, there's a lot of work that still needs to be done, a lot of discussions, just kind of scratching the surface.
What's the sanitary district is working on a grant. That conversation.
So pretty much their grant is just them trying to expand out to the county before the county was trying to expand out to the county to begin with. So I think it'll be really good going hand in hand with them for sure. It will help them immensely, I would imagine. Right now I have a meeting with Leanne at 3 today, so I will know hopefully a lot more after that. But yeah. I think the purpose of their grant that they got is just to work on getting it recycling expanded out into places that don't have it already.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and I think just to expand a little bit more, what I envision Dakota's position, I think you're right that they need to work in a local city, but maybe we could do some kind of job sharing, like we did with WR, portion of her salaries pay through there. But also I know that she's very good at grant writing. And one thing that I think we're lacking at the county is somebody's geared towards grant writing to get us funds for other than WR, other projects.
Agreed.
I know the city has they have grant writers that do stuff that.
As long as we come up with another revenue source to pay for that part of her time, that would be grant writing for something other than recycling.
Right, we'd have to come out, a grant for a grant writer. I'm sure there's money out there, right? I mean.
Surprise me.
And I know that realm from the federal government has been shrinking now. That's of these grants, but I think there's still going to be, it's something that we should explore, that possibility that.
Even things like Okra grants, which we haven't typically applied for on a regular basis.
But with the revenue stream seem to be starting to not dry up, but they're shrinking the amount of money the counties are getting. Looking at other revenue streams is, I think, is wise for us to pursue. I don't know what you guys think. That's my thought process. That
I'm willing to talk about that. Yeah.
And because the federal government grants kind of lessening as well, I mean, I think it's even more important to find somebody to go out and research and have that availability within their job to be able to do that. I would agree.
And we had some funding approved by the council to do that. We couldn't find a person.
Wasn't that was for the ARPA money, wasn't it? Or
no, it was general fund money,
which is going to be hard pressed to get now. But
we'll need to have that conversation because
I think it's important that you at least have that discussion with them.
Absolutely.
We don't want to pass up an opportunity to get revenue.
Either does Dakota.
Nope.
Okay.
My thought.
Good deal. What else do you have for us?
I don't really have anything else that I can think of besides the Facebook. The only thing I need a Facebook for is for advertising if we do decide to do tire collections or really the only.
Are you comfortable with this webpage then to go forward with it?
Yeah, I think so.
Do you have other thoughts, Steve? That's what I thought.
This as I go. You know,
He has lots of other thoughts.
You know,
No,
I'm a
I'm
great
not sure.
recycler. Me,
You are.
I am a
You
great
are.
recycler.
You're a leader in the industry.
I am, and I need to learn more.
All
You'll
right.
also be at the 4-H fair from time to time. There will be a
Good.
table. Where's the table located?
The
The fairgrounds?
conservation, yeah, it's at the fairgrounds. I think it's in the conservation building over by the swine barn,
Okay.
where they have the ice cream.
Yeah.
That's where it's at.
All right.
Good choice.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Dakota.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve?
Yep, going on then, you heard the presentation to council on the projects. Just I want to zero in on a couple things that for us to talk about. So on the courthouse front plaza, remember I had passed out to you the lighting sheets as well as the bollard sheets.
Right.
The lighting sheet is pretty well set in stone. They tried to match that with the downtown lighting, and it's pretty close. The base is a little different, but the lamp itself matches it pretty close. So you don't, unless you just completely want to change horses in the middle of the stream on that one. That one's pretty well set.
No, I'm fine with
Do
that.
we have that in?
I didn't.
I think originally we did have it.
I gave you the lighting, but I didn't run it for this.
Weren't there like 3 different styles of globes, 3 or 4 different styles of globes?
No, that was the bollards.
No, there were some globes
There's
too.
a light
Well,
fixture at the top
there
of
were, but they spec'd the one that was close to what downtown. Remember,
Okay.
I gave you a picture of what the downtown looked like.
Yeah, I didn't really see any that I thought were close, so. If you can just, from the picture of the 3 or 4 different types, can you find out which one is the one we're using?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's got it right there. And I probably have it somewhere in my paperwork. At some point.
Well,
Yeah,
if
the-
that's
the
it,
top- the
why
top
would
is
you
the
give
same.
us the other one that had 4 different styles.
Cause that was the bollards is the 4 different styles.
So, no, that's what I'm talking about.
Well-
So those are different. And which one is that one?
It's this.
It's that one with
Yes.
the gold?
No, and they specify the color down here.
Okay.
That's what this is, and that's the base chosen.
Right, understood.
And that's the part underneath the light that's chosen.
Okay.
And LWC, the one that's.
Okay.
Yeah. And they
I'm good with that.
tried to get it as close as possible as to what the city
Okay.
installed.
Okay.
The only major noticeable difference is just the base, but it's not that,
Okay.
it's not that noticeable.
That's right.
It's,
And on the bollards then?
Right, so the bollards, then you need to make a determination.
And I like the first page.
That's the one that one right there?
No. That's the second page. That's, is yours even the same as mine? That's the one that I like the best, but.
You know, I like these the best, but you know what? I'm not gonna draw a line in the sand. I mean,
Hey, do you want to be the tiebreaker? Which one do you like the best? Doesn't matter to me. Try to
if you
tell
choose the third one.
that one,
Okay, let's
You're
flip a
welcome.
coin.
I really don't have a dog in the fight here. It's once they get installed and you'll never know what the other ones look like. So it doesn't matter. I've built enough
It
houses
doesn't
that
matter,
I've
right.
made enough decisions based off a piece of paper, square inch, and when it's all said and done, it's like, I forgot what the other ones look like. So
I will say this, as far as long-term maintenance and keeping them clean, the first one has less grooves. Probably easier to,
So is that your vote?
yeah, I'm going first.
I'm fine with that.
So you're looking at
We don't need a long
Big one.
drawn out discussion
100
about
RT,
the
right?
ballards.
That one.
100 RT.
Yes, 100 RT.
And then the question came up, I think last time we talked, and on that first page that you just referred to, the specs call for it to be mounted in the pipe mount.
Good.
Yeah, it
I
should
like
be.
that.
So that's what
Seems like it would be more secure that way.
Okay. And then we also talked about fencing And they just want to confirm, and I think I've given this to you as well, that we decided, we picked a color. This is not the color, but you decided on the vertical louvers. You good with that?
Yep.
Okay. Then we also talked about screening in the chiller area. If we go above 8 feet, it would require a variance from the city. I don't think that would be an issue getting that variance, but just understand if you want to go higher than 8 foot.
If we go higher than 8 feet, does it get to the part where it starts arching back around, and would it have to be?
I guess how high do you want to go up?
We didn't measure.
No.
I think 8 feet would be high enough.
8
Or
feet
you want to go, okay, let me measure, let me put a measure on it so you see how high that goes.
I don't know how flexible this fence is, where what they would have to do to make it conform to that arch if we go above.
Can you do me a favor? So that when we have these discussions, can you take some photos
Sure.
of what we're talking about so we can, okay?
Sure.
Cause you're sitting there saying where it goes up and bending the fence. I'm like,
Where we're talking about.
Yeah.
On the arch on the back, yeah.
The sides are straight and then it
Right,
starts
and it curves
arching.
up.
Yeah.
And I say the fence needs to go to that
Arch.
where it starts to curve.
Yeah.
Whatever that
If it's
measurement.
more than 8 feet, then we go and get a variance or ask
Yes,
for a variance.
right.
Right?
Because I think that would look appropriate.
I do too.
Yeah,
And if that's less than 8 feet, then
and we're good.
is there a height that you don't want to be under? Like if it's less than 6 feet, is it really secure at all?
I would guess it's probably 8 to 10 feet before the arch starts. I would guess from my recollection, but I could be wrong. But
6 feet is better than no feet.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you get to that point, even an 8 foot can be scaled.
True.
It's just
True.
a deterrent, like any security measures.
Yeah.
Slow them down.
Unless we, run
Electrify it.
electrical charge through it.
Now you're talking my
Okay.
Okay, so you'll find out what the height is and.
Of that, where the curve starts. Vertical louvers. Okay. And then on the Proxguard lock system, I'll revisit the policy. I have sent out the request for input from each one of the department heads and elected officials for what each individual employee should have issued to them and what clearance they should have. Started getting, and I attached a copy of the policy with that so that they could see it, and told them that it's in draft, still in draft form, but it will be adopted soon. Even though we brought this up at the department head meetings weeks ago, when I got some comments back from Corey George as to some suggestions in the current draft, and I provided this with you. So if you want to look at that draft policy that I've in front of you, a couple things have changed since we discussed this last. I gave the example of the definition of a building tenant as the Wayne Township trustee employees. Well, they will no longer be here. The only one that we would still have in this building is the director of the drug-free Wayne County. But then Corey is suggesting that because that definition only includes just the annex, that we should include the other buildings that's involved in this in the language. Hadn't thought about it, but makes sense to add that.
Yeah, because the health department has contractor.
Right.
Health building and the courthouse will be added to that language. And then on the second page under 3D, so talk this through just a bit. It confined this visitor pass issuance to the courthouse because it's manned all the time with security folks. Obviously, Corey brings up some things that could happen in this building where they have community corrections workers working around. There'll also be visitors that come down to the 911 center.
But we don't have a place to issue these visitor tags. So do you make them go over to or do we care if they're in this building and not identified as they are in the courthouse?
I think when I brought that up, I meant all buildings. That was and I didn't say which bill, I just didn't, if you're a vendor here.
I don't remember. Sorry.
County, all buildings.
Meaning that you would go to courthouse security to get
No,
a tag?
no, I'd not necessarily they would have a visitor's ID.
Whoever you were visiting, so if they're a contractor, they would be working for Building and Grounds. They would go to Building and Grounds to get their visitor pass? No.
I think that's way too many people going to different areas. I would suggest that Bobby be the keeper of the visitor's identification cards. So if probation, per se, has somebody that's in there for training, sends Bobby an email saying, I will have John Smith here tomorrow as a visitor. Can you issue him a visitor's badge? And that person is directed to come to the commissioner's office and get the visitor's badge. Or HR, I think it should come out from our office. It's one central, instead of going to Building Ground, going to probate, because then you got to have all these different badges at different locations, and we can't, they tend to get lost or not returned back in. So we know how well Bobby's record keeping is.
Yeah, she is good at record keeping.
I do agree. We need one person, one place giving out those badges. I do agree.
They sign in, they sign out, issue the badge. When they leave, they turn in a badge, they're signed out.
I'm not sold on that being Bobby.
It doesn't have to be Bobby. I just suggested Bobby, but I think it should be one point of contact though. That way they track the IDs. We know at any time if there's an incident, they can go to that one person, see the log and say, here's who the people were in the building.
The people that were in the building who checked in.
Right.
I'd like to have a week to think about that and see if we can come up with.
So my thoughts on this is I don't necessarily disagree with you. This building isn't near as secure as the courthouse. And so I guess I weigh whether it's necessary in this building. They would have to come deep into the building to get it. And there's nothing to guide them to make sure they come here other than the department they're going to be visiting or working for.
Well, I don't want to get into the weeds too much of security issues, but the whole point of this is that they are readily available. If something happens, they can be identified as somebody that's supposed to be in this building.
It's
not about letting them in and walk. It's that if an incident happens, we know who's supposed to be here and who's not.
I get you. Let's take another week at least to try to figure out a good process.
It's not a simple solution of nothing simple. So
exactly.
And then on the last page under disciplinary action, asking that, remember employee handbook. The court employees also have a handbook. And he wants the language of this policy to match, which would be in our employee handbook, to match what's currently there, which means that you would defer to the disciplinary action under the court handbook. For violation of this policy.
Have you reviewed what it says in the court employee handbook?
Well, the part that it says is different levels of discipline. Here, our policy says they have their level of clearance revoked. He is suggesting that it could be something less than that. It could be just a warning and it's not revoked. And maybe that's what you want to.
And I guess I'd like to look at
I'd like
court employee handbook and see what
I'd like to see that may be appropriate for all of us.
It may be.
Right.
It may be.
Okay. And then one thing that's come up, and I just simply throw this out, I'm not telling you I'm embracing this thought, but remember, we're going to issue these cards with different door clearances and different hours of clearance. And there would be a number of employees in this building specifically that all they would get is an identification card. They wouldn't have any access to any of the doors.
Right.
The kicker is the mailbox drop is out that west door. And so to come back in, they would have to have a Prox card with that door programmed into it.
But isn't typically there one person that?
I don't know. I haven't checked that.
I think talk to the, and with that, I mean, we can set timeframes, so it's, between the hours of this during Monday through Friday or business hours.
And.
I don't see any problem. They are an employee, why they can't go out and come back in. It's after hours access and weekends that I think that we
But
would
they
restrict.
would need a Prox card as opposed to an identification.
Understood, but it wouldn't necessarily have to be everybody in that office. It could be one or two people.
Right.
Who typically take the mail.
The main person and then maybe a backup person. So.
So yeah, let's get feedback from the.
Okay.
Good feedback.
And then the last thing on that project sheet, remember I noted to the council this morning that I put down in that lower right-hand corner what they've committed towards the police vehicle bids. And just for your information, the bid is going to be it's out for advertising, and you'll receive those bids on June 25th after it's advertised twice. And I sent it specifically to the local dealer as well as those 3 dealers that were identified on the state QPA list that responded for police vehicles. Remember, the state didn't issue their QPA, but I still sent it to those dealers.
Isn't there something in the buy local that allowed that for businesses in surrounding counties?
Adjacent counties.
Did we send anything to them? Are there any dealers in the adjacent counties?
I can.
Chevy.
But
it will be advertised, right?
It's going to be advertised, correct?
If there are Chevy dealers in the adjacent counties, why don't you go ahead and send it to them?
Okay. And then I know we've talked about this in the past, or we've talked about this, but I sent you an email about the color of the furniture for Superior Court 1. And I don't think we zeroed in on that color. I know you had a thought, you've had a thought, I've had a thought. So I don't think I heard from you.
I think we kind of settled on the light brown, didn't we?
Oh, we did?
I thought that we put that on the bed.
Oh, we did too, but.
I thought it was the light brown because the dark brown was not available, right? Or what?
No, the dark brown's available. I just thought it was too dark.
Okay.
Especially when he initially wanted white.
Yeah, the light brown.
And I agree.
So you're all good with the light brown?
Yes.
Okay, you must have talked among yourselves on that.
No.
No, I thought we
were all together
I mean, I didn't
at
hear
your
it.
house. You don't remember that?
I don't. Okay. And then obviously you heard this morning that council will be considering another employee in that office, so there'll be more furniture that will be needed as well.
But
we have furniture.
We have lots of furniture downstairs from the
You know, send Aaron over to sell that.
from the township, yeah.
Are they not parking? Are they not here anymore?
No, they
The
moved
trustees,
last
they're-
week.
So are we taking those signs down?
Yeah.
The reserve? Okay, so we're good to park there then.
They were here through last Friday.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they.
I was looking for a
left
parking
us
spot this morning.
Quite
so
a
that's
bit
what-
of stuff
Now,
down in there.
they
offices they
will
left.
be keeping their, they have a township owned vehicle, and they don't particularly want to park it down in that location.
Overnight.
Okay.
So we have furniture downstairs. We need some table for one of our staff. So can we
We
look?
don't have any tables.
No tables.
We can look, yes.
Well, let's get an official release of that stuff before we
Yeah.
start giving it away.
Haven't gotten there. I didn't give it away. I said, well, look.
Well, let's don't give it away yet, even if you look. Anyway, so also will be furniture for the new person as well, and whether this fits or not, this we'll find out.
It'd be interesting to see if we can cram them in that office.
Yeah,
It's kind of full now.
I remember,
know.
as I remember.
Said there were plenty of room.
They said a cost for replacement.
It's,
And that,
No. Have you said that, Ron just had a question, you had that blank on the, did you set a cost for replacement for the IDs yet?
Do we know what the cards themselves actually cost?
No.
Not
I
yet.
think we're waiting to hear back from that before we determine, correct?
We should, yes.
And then my last thing I have, we've talked, the fleet committee, we talked about the sale of the disposing of the medical RV. And what I seem to have found at this point, from one of our documents and going on the website, you have to keep these assets for at least 5 years. Put that through February 26.
Okay.
Now, is there someone that did someone help us with this contract or?
No, that was all Commissioner Paust.
Yeah, see, so it seems to, what I seem to find it for assets that you bought with this money, we need to keep them for at least 5 years.
Does that include the expired hand sanitizer and face masks?
I don't know what qualifies as an asset, but I would think that this RV would qualify.
This would.
That one would, yeah.
How long have you had it?
Which the RV?
Yeah.
We,
4 years or
February of 21.
so.
When did we
Next spring.
Does it matter? We had to have it rehab, didn't we? I mean, there was a lot of work done to convert it.
Yeah, I mean,
But that was all part of the,
Was that pre-February of 21?
I think that's when it was delivered, was
that's when
February.
that's when the title is dated.
Yeah.
And so that's the date I went by, but. So I'll look further into this, but like we may not be able to do it.
Even for another 6 or 8 months.
That's all I have, Jeff.
I have a question for you. I got an email from Sandy House Fairgrounds.
That's across.
So, yeah, I'm checking on the stop sign. I've talked to TL City. He was supposed to get that. I sent another email, but she wanted to know about the crosswalk. I know it's something that we've talked about in the past. Is that going to happen this year or no?
Well,
Yeah.
the city's the one, that's a city street.
Right.
If you can't get a feedback from them,
You're saying about.
I guess I'll have Mike.
I thought we already said that, Mike. I thought they agreed.
I
It
thought
seemed
Mike
like
painted.
Mike said
Yeah.
he would do it if the city agrees to let him do it. I thought we
Right.
already put.
Yes,
That's what I thought, that
Right.
Mike was gonna do it, but
that's what I recall.
we needed their approval.
And did we get their approval?
We'll have to ask Mike.
No, I thought he said he was going to call TL or
Okay.
the street department.
I'll follow
Yeah.
up.
But I did send an email to the street department and, because I think he actually has to send it to the Board of Works or
Probably.
to get approval for a stop sign. And he said, well, I know when to do it. I do it every year. And it's like, I don't micromanage anybody. So he says he's going to do it. I trust that.
Who's your point of contact?
TL, the superintendent of the street department.
Okay.
Anything else for Steve?
Well, that's it.
Okay. Do you want to start the conversations today about some of those topics I was sharing with the council? that-
I would like to bring up one of those.
Okay, which one?
Let's talk about WCTV
Okay.
and your objection to using them. And
I don't object to using them. I think that it is probably not our low-cost option.
I would agree with that. let me explain to why I think, two reasons why I feel strongly that we should use them. One, they're an entity that's been around a long time. They are a service for our community. It's valuable that they stick around.
Agreed.
Second, for transparency, that we have a unbiased third party editing and providing the videos of our meetings, that we can say, this is them doing that, not us. And third, our IT department will be taxed. We have an IT person here sitting here now during our meeting because wanting to make sure that that'll work. So I think there will be a drain on resources. We have evening meetings.
Temporarily. That won't happen.
But what if it, and maybe this is a legal question, what if we are having a meeting and it stops working?
And if it's a technical issue, it's no harm, no foul. We fix it and go on for the next meeting.
As long as it's not totally systemic and keeps happening, every.
So those are I would prefer, this commissioner, I'm not speaking for anybody else, that we seek an avenue to support WCTV and have them do, at a minimum, council and commissioner meetings.
Okay. And the issue becomes one of cost.
Right. And funding. I mean, we have to get council on board.
Absolutely.
Just like anything else.
Absolutely.
And I have spoken to a couple council members and they're leaning towards in favor of it. So until you get a vote, you never know.
Exactly. Aaron, you want to weigh in?
I agree with your comments on utilizing them as a third party, non-biased, and you know they are very much valued in our community. I believe that as far as video and audio goes, you know, that's a lot different than our IT department is typically used to dealing with. IT department is more computer-based issues, not necessarily video audio expertise. And I know WCTV has always done a great job. Our IT department, I appreciate them, and they're willing to do anything we ask them to do. Craig does a great job leading that department. But I believe the expertise with WCTV is far more valuable in that realm. And if we do have continued issues with VL, I know we've had a little bit here and there where it kind of cuts out. That's a concern I have, and again, I believe it will have them burdened a little bit more than I think what we initially think. Setting up the meetings, things run smooth, and it's an added responsibility to them, and I think it will be an added responsibility that would cause them to focus more on that and take away from what they're continually doing now for us. So I would support WCTV and see if council would be willing to, meeting with WCTV and finding out what that final cost might look like, which we don't know until we get through a year, probably what that actual cost would be.
Because the hours are going to vary.
It's going to be different. It will be.
The initial proposal is for $40,000.
Right.
Is that for just the commissioners and council?
No, that's for
It's everything.
It's for everything they can reasonably anticipate. So why don't we leave it at this? You're on the board. Why don't you run with this, get the details, and you're obviously welcome to participate in any way on that, but come back with a proposal and a cost. And one of the issues is the expectation that we will continue to give them the franchise fees or a portion thereof in addition to the contract amount. Is it all tied together somehow?
I think that's something that we need to visit. It's just sort of like when we're talking about the help.
Yes,
absolutely, and that's what I'm saying. So,
well, I think they're under a charge from the city to come up with a business plan. So obviously, I think this would impact their business plan, and so I think you'll need to confer there and know what assumptions go into that business plan as they relate to providing service to to Wayne County government.
Right. And I will say the city has asked for some stipulations, and the business plan is one of them. A voting member on their board is another one, and there's a couple other things. And I don't have a problem with having the same stipulations necessarily. I mean, if,
Bayou East is asking for some of those same concessions, I think.
correct. And they're also working with them on covering, you know, their athletics as they normally have.
And I think we look at it through the end of the year and reevaluate next year.
Yep.
But I think as far as hours, if you're talking about just commissioners and council meetings, workshop, I think it would be fairly easy because they have given us a proposal on hourly. The average our hours, what we did last year, would not, Bobby, can you come up with some kind of based off of?
Not if she's checking all the visitors in and
Yeah.
out of the building.
That is true.
Hey, Steve, can you go through the videos?
Let's
Look at and see the average hours total for last year on commissioner and council meetings.
Is that how?
That would give us an idea of how much we're talking.
Steve's worried about the Ballards right now. I'm sorry.
I mean, because I don't know, we've already got an hourly rate.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So what, I mean, we can, if we're looking at what the total number is, other than the 40,000, I think it's an easy number to come up with.
Yeah, I think it's $250 an hour.
Right.
And
Times how many ever hours the commissioner and council meetings are.
well, and I guess I'm not clear on why you want to stick with those and not go with more of the meetings. So
I mean, we
That-
could,
that
but I'm
would
saying
be-
that's cost savings for us. And those are meetings that are on a more regular basis. You know, the health board is once a month, so it's not, it's the minimal cost. And I think maybe the health board could enter into their own agreement on who they want to film their meetings.
I would make the recommendation if we went with WCTV, have them cover all meetings. That's just me. Again, it goes back to WCTV has the expertise of the audio video side of it.
I don't have a problem with that. I'm just looking at.
I agree with the cost side of it, right?
And let's have a range of options.
Yeah.
To present to council that here's the waterfront. What part of this might you be willing to fund?
Sure.
And the other question is, do we try to start July 1, or do we say, let's go through this year and budget money starting January 1 of 26? So that's going to be significantly up to council as to which way they want to approach that. But if you have some options to look at, let's see if we can pull that together fairly quickly.
Steve, is there a second generation of that list of entities and the columns that we looked at 2 weeks ago?
The meeting list.
I will have, I don't have it today, but to your point is that 40,000 not to exceed, or is that?
I don't recall the words not to exceed.
Because
how many hours is that at $250 an hour?
160.
not that many.
Yeah.
Well, we're just gonna have to keep you to a time limit. No,
They
the
can
meetings
just cut
keep
me
getting
off.
longer and longer. Last year they were.
Just cut me off.
So that's 160 hours for a year. And if you divide that by months or by month,
15
that's only
hours a month.
13 hours a month. And that's not going to cover.
And that's kind of why I was looking at commissioners and council meetings.
Well, let's,
At a minimum, that would be the,
Then
I mean, that 13 hours would barely just cover council commissioner, honestly.
right.
That's,
yeah, budget time, you know, we're going into 4 or 5 hour
oh,
meetings.
yeah.
And then I would also, without seeing their business plan, you're going to have the manpower to cover it. Because if they're going to do the city, their plan commissioner BZA meets on the same night as ours. And are they going to have the employees to cover that and other entities that may want to use them?
This would be my recommendation that we are prepared now to proceed ourselves. And July 1 is going to be here before we know it. But let's pursue something with WCTV. So we have a proposal to take to council, maybe hopefully by the workshop. But we know that on July 1, if we don't have that all worked out, we can continue as we have been doing for the last 6 or 8 weeks.
And could
until
we,
we get something down.
could we hold off on purchasing any new equipment?
I think it's already purchased, but we
it's
needed
already
it.
here.
We needed it anyway. This is.
So there's one here,
this is
right?
old technology.
As far as I know.
Correct.
So, which will be utilized
And
anyway
it
with
was
other
only-
areas, so.
It was only like $2,000, so it wasn't a huge investment, and it can be used for other type Zoom meetings anyway.
Yes.
So what we get an owl with stand or whatever like that?
I think it's just an owl that will go on that stand.
Do you know what the school board's gonna do?
I think they're planning on doing it themselves. I mean, they have that capability, I think.
Okay, so Aaron, you'll work on that.
I will work on that and get something, hopefully,
Feel free to work
the next
with
week or
me if you
two.
want.
Yep.
And we'll go forward and get, as soon as we have additional information, let's plan on going back to council at the workshop.
Yes.
Sooner than later.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. How about the help the animals, grant to help them with, rehabbing some of their outside rooms?
I'm okay with moving forward with that. My big thing is, and I know you've asked the city and they're willing to chip in a little bit. But you know, the city doesn't even work with them other than they're in the city. And they do service a lot of the residents in the city.
Right.
Because of their location. And I think the city does have some responsibility there, even though they don't use them as their animal control shelter. I still think there's some responsibility just because it services the citizens of Richmond.
And I think the funds that they're using is leftover ARPA money.
funds that were previously committed to animal. So they just haven't been spent yet. So that would be the $5,000 as I understand it.
I think and I'm with Aaron, I think we move forward, but I'd like to have those discussions with them that I mentioned in my email,
Right.
just to.
Do you want to?
Yeah, I'll definitely take I can do that. And say, I just think it's only fair, you know, if we're talking, you know, in the big scheme of everything, WCTV, this,
sure,
you know, we only have a certain pot of money.
Right. And maybe we still pay per animal, but the spay or neuter extra costs that we've allotted, maybe we say, hey, can you pick those up the remainder of this year if we help you out with this project or whatever?
And my understanding is that there's a Animal Care Alliance is looking to hire a new vet.
Right.
And the foundation is talking to them about.
Because they're going to fund that, right?
I think so. They haven't, as far as I know, they haven't made their final decisions yet on what they're going to fund. But I know from Rebecca that they've had conversations with ACA about helping help with some of the neutering, spay and neutering, which might.
So it sounds like these are all, it's a move-in target right now. We need to iron out some things and see where the foundation's going to fund and what's.
Absolutely.
And what
I'm more than willing to move forward. I think they've proven to be a very good partner.
They have. They have.
You
need to keep.
Absolutely. And I think.
Have that in the past.
Yes, absolutely.
And I will say, I like this project because of the fact that we're incorporating two different groups that need to work together that we've asked to work together, right?
Yeah.
We've asked them for years and now they're wanting to actually work together.
Hard
and I
over
want to
the
encourage
last
that.
2.5 years to build this relationship and mend some
absolutely
some things that happened. So okay,
I
think we want to keep moving forward.
Well,
Yep.
if you can have those conversations with help and report back to us on what you're finding, we can go from there, and see where we end up. Let's see. I talked to you a little bit this morning about conversation with Dunn. Kathy has some time on Wednesday of next week. We could try to set up a Zoom to have a brief conversation with her during our meeting time next week. Is that?
That'd be great.
Makes sense.
Yes.
Okay.
We're meeting at 8 a.m. or 8:30.
8:30, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
And we'll start with the direct reports meeting, and then
Yeah, that's fine.
sometime after 9:30, try to talk to Kathy about their recommendations.
Does that include this aggregate?
Sorry?
That includes this companion life contract or?
No, that's on the agenda for today, isn't it? And what are we supposed to do with that? Is that okay. That's not is that the stop loss contract?
That's stop loss contract.
Okay, yeah, okay. Have you looked at it?
I have. It's hard to tell how much it costs. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure that out.
Okay, maybe we should give him a little bit more time to look at before we act on something we don't know how much it's going to
Yeah,
cost.
I
We
mean,
only got $3. Will it fit under that?
it'll fit under it. The $3 bill. Contract.
You go on, yeah.
So do we need to wait until next week?
I think it would be helpful. I didn't understand.
Yeah, let's do
In fact,
that.
it called for the signature of trustees. Why don't we think we have trustees? Ours is an employee. They're not like the schools,
Yeah.
Viva.
Okay, why don't you look at that first? The other thing I wanted to talk about briefly is there's a Buckland and Associates.
I'm glad you brought that up. That was on my list to bring up.
Yeah.
Okay, so where are we on that?
Well, we haven't gotten anywhere yet, but they are proposing, as I recall, a $70,000 contract,
70, it was almost 80,000,
something like that.
79 or some change.
And we were gonna
Take
try
that
to
out,
have
these.
a company. No, his salary.
Oh, that's fine too.
Just kidding, Steve. We love you. I think what probably makes the most sense is to try to schedule a phone call.
Have you not talked to them?
Bobby talked to them, but I don't think anybody else has.
I think we need to have a conversation, whether it be a conference call, me and Steve and whoever else.
Yeah. You try to do that and understand what it
Why?
is they think.
Because I got back with you on from Lions.
I was going to say
Gregory and Appel.
Lions, Gregory and Appel, they weighed in on that.
Yeah, they don't think we need to do it.
Last year we used
the
our
insurance company, yeah. And apparently this cost has gone up significantly because we didn't do it last year. And so I'm not sure that we need to do it for insurance purposes. But Steve, this is different from the one for our
capital
assets review, right? Because
it's different threshold of value.
who does that one?
I thought it was them too, wasn't it?
I think there's a different
Was
group.
it?
that company? Yeah.
different company.
Yeah. Let's find out who does the other one, the capital assets. Let's see if we can get a phone call set up with Brad, if you get with Bobby and Steve and try to figure out a time.
Yep.
And just,
We could do
why
it
do we
via
need
Zoom
to
or
do
something,
this?
or
Have we been given a pretty good number for our renewal for our basic?
We don't have the number
Yes.
yet.
we're
meeting
out the
with
market
them.
now.
We're meeting with them on next week, the 11th.
Yeah.
Lions is coming in on the
Yeah,
11th.
it's been out to market, so I don't know where we are.
Thank you, Bobby.
Yeah, it's the 11th. And just for planning purposes, we penciled in a 10% increase in our budget request. And Mike Lyons seemed pretty confident after talking to Andy that we would probably be no more than that.
And it could be less.
Could be less, but not holding my breath on that, but that's not bad.
So this is basically property casualty and marine.
Correct. Okay.
You said you want to mention it, and I agree. I'd like to talk about the safety village.
Oh, yes.
They should.
And they requested
They requested
$1,000.
$5,000 for 5 years is what they normally would charge somebody,
$1,000 a year.
which is $1,000 a year. And I know I had made a comment and like to ask Ron on this. Could we just pay him the $5,000 for the 5 years now?
So this
to
would
be supportive of them.
This would be a
sponsorship
of, there'd be a sign actually sponsoring the grounds.
Or whatever he said, or whatever we wanted to work out.
But the cost might be different if we worked something else out. But what they offered us was putting up a sign that would support the landscaping that they've done at Safety Village. And so essentially we're just giving them a donation to run the Safety Village program. And they put it to us as $1,000 a year for a 5-year term. And Aaron's question is, because I told him I didn't think we could pay for stuff in advance.
Well,
but it's
not really a purchase of services.
It's service.
It's more of a, like you said, donation
It's a
slash
donation.
endorsement.
Right.
So could we just, if we decide and if we have the funding available, could we give them $5,000 on this agreement to fund them for 5 years?
And we already get a signage out of it. Is that it?
Correct.
Yes.
Wouldn't lose any sleep over that.
Because he says basically
If you
their
get
supporters
$4,500 if you pay them up front, that would be even better.
There you go.
Their supporters go for 5 years. Agreements is what they do, and then they pay them $1,000 a year, and some do pay upfront. Just here's your 5-year $5,000 and be done. And that's what I would like to do. Just go ahead and do that and know that we've supported them now for the next 5 years and be part of that. Unless that's a problem that we can't. So
Doesn't sound like it is.
Doesn't.
And if it's not a problem, I would like to go ahead and
where are we thinking
invite
about
him
taking
back.
this?
I'll take a second look at it, but it's. I mean, the irony is county government has very few limitations on its ability to do something like this. You can recall, we always have had areas like a rite of passage. The museum came to us and, a lot of other just pure sponsorships.
I would not want to do it without talking to council first. Even though we would propose the money coming from our discretionary funds.
Sure. I don't have a problem with that.
Just like this morning, I was talking to them about all that. I think we need to operate as a team and make sure everybody's on board.
And I totally agree.
If somebody's not on board.
Let's put that on the agenda for the workshop then.
Let's do that. Okay.
And then maybe invite Rich back at some point and say, hey, so let's talk about, where that sponsorship could go or what I know he said landscaping, but he also said if not, then we could work out something else. So I'd like to invite him back one more time after we say, yes, we're willing to sponsor and then kind of decide then at that point how much you win.
Not try to schedule him for the workshop because
No.
there's several other things.
How are the
agenda?
Right. I say even after workshop.
participants who attend that funded?
Well, from what I understand, like each person has an entity has a building out there. They pay for that building.
Right. But you're talking about participants, the kids.
The kids.
I think there is no fee.
A fee.
No, there is
a fee.
If there's a fee, it's minimal, it's $10, $20, something like that. They give scholarships to kids that can't afford it. And then they do a lot now with school classes that come out there and go through the smokehouse, or, they go through a training program, an hour or something. And so they don't charge the schools to come out and use their facility, and they provide instructors and that kind of thing. And a lot of times it's collaborative with the sheriff or the RPD or Richmond Fire Department or whomever it might be. But they do a good bit of that. So
They have a lot of free events, but their summer camp, they do charge, yes.
To say they charge for summer camps. So.
Yes.
they do, but it's worthwhile training.
Yes.
My granddaughter went through it a few years ago and just had a blast. And
It's a neat
learned lot.
facility out there.
It
really
is.
It is. Okay. Anything else?
Memorial location and courthouse.
Yeah, we do need to talk about that, but I'm thinking we probably want to walk over there and look. But when we looked at it,
We were
last
going to move
year-
it to the staircase. Well,
that's where we talked about, but that was prior to Aaron.
And I've looked at that area and.
Okay,
and
so it's
I'm-
on the south staircase between the second and third floor.
Yes, just right outside of Spear One.
it's a perfect
And then,
location.
yes,
We
I
good
totally
with that?
agree. I'm
Good with
perfect with that.
So let's build that into the specs.
I'm good with that as long as that wall can support or it's able to be supported somehow. So,
Well,
because I know that could be an issue.
it
Memorialized.
could be, but
Right. I don't think so.
There's a Civil War memorial on the second floor.
in front of Superior 3.
Yeah, where the new elevator would need to be. So it has to be moved.
I mean, we're a ways away from that being done anyhow, but we need
We
to
are.
pick a place and
Yes.
that's fine with me. I was okay with it last year. I haven't changed it.
Exactly.
I'm
I haven't either.
I'm perfect.
All right. Steve, got what you need then to
I do.
move forward with the bid specs for that next phase. And Kevin talked about bidding those two items, removing the flue, moving the memorial, and opening the what would eventually become the doors for the elevator, because that would be where they take the flue out, right, in sections. But then also bidding the elevator as part of that bid process, but a separate project. Separate project, but bid it all at the same time.
Yep.
Okay. So everybody good with that?
Yes.
All right. Do you want to go to the minutes and the claims?
Yes, I would. I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes from Commissioners meeting, May 28th, 2025.
I'll second that motion.
Sorry.
That's okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those same sign. Motion carries.
And I'd like to make a motion to approve the following claims. State and local payroll taxes dated May 28, 2025. Boston Mutual dated May 28, 2025. Federal income tax dated 6/2/2025. Claims, general claims dated 6/4/2025.
Is that it?
That's it.
I'll second.
Wasn't sure.
I wasn't-
Sorry.
Which way is like,
Sorry.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Bobby, what have we missed?
No hotel rate change? Wow.
Well, all right. Steve, nothing else? Ron?
A couple of things, just to FYI, dismiss the first appeal of the BZA decision related to the livestock auction facility. So that should be an end to that. We just completed Laura just completed the record on the appeal for denial of the
Esteb Road storage units. So we'll be getting that management plan put together, and that'll work. So we do this circuit court, and we'll see where we are.
All right. Brad, you good? Have you heard anything more? You were on the committee that selected the developers that would get some of the housing acceleration. Is there any?
Last time I checked, they're still moving forward, going through the paperwork.
Okay. 82 units, that's.
Yeah, as far as I know, it's still moving forward, and I'll make a note to double check with Val again. I haven't got an update in a week or two, so.
Okay.
Last time I talked to her, she said everything's moving forward, so.
Good. Mark, got anything?
Yeah. Number of years ago, in my prior life, the township trustee made a rather large donation to the county to build this building.
It was pretty small, actually, what I heard. 50 years ago?
Yes.
Mhm.
I think it was $1 million, if I remember correctly. The federal revenue sharing money. Anyway, the county gave him a 99-year lease on the building.
No, it wasn't 99 years.
For my time, but I'm not aware of
Maybe
anything.
50 years.
It was a 50-year lease.
Expires in 26 or 27.
Okay. My memory doesn't serve me very well.
At any rate.
Was it for the building or just for the parking area? And office space or?
Office space.
Just office space.
Correct. And Susan has opted to go ahead and move out and did that last week to the new building that she acquired.
Just asking.
Okay.
So should we get a release
Is that?
or her vacating and? I mean, it's only a year. I mean, just in case we wanted to use that space for something, I guess. I mean,
We
'cause-
can ask her. I think she'd be willing.
I mean, we're only talking a year, 18
Who
months.
represents that township now? John Sayer passed.
Anything else?
I just need copy of that redevelopment committee reappointment because we put it to Gateway. Yes.
I'm sorry. you
The
need-
what appointment?
I didn't catch any of that.
We went really fast.
Reappointment contract you did
Oh,
start.
you
I
need
need
copies of those? Okay, we can do that,
Yeah.
Bobby.
Yeah, actually, we need signatures. Mark's signature on these. I got them right here.
That was for
For council. Council had two
These are-
appointments. Commissioners have
These are the
three.
commissioner appointments. Okay, if there's nothing else, we're adjourned.